And let's begin with a moment of silence and reflection, please. Thank you very much, and we'll officially call the meeting to order and say welcome to all of you that are here tonight and those that are otherwise here listening and observing what's taking place. And let's stand and pledge allegiance to the flag to my right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A simple reminder for all of you in the room, if you are not familiar, my left rear corner, that corner, the table has paperwork that deals with the meeting tonight and an agenda and some other papers that might help you follow along and help yourself with that. Let's number 4 on the agenda, consideration of approval of the agenda as presented. Is there a motion?
Alan, could I make a comment?
Sure.
I don't know if this is an agenda item or not, but I would request we move the April meeting. You want to put it on the agenda, or can we?
You want move it if you want to put it on the agenda.
I don't have my calendar.
You can.
Okay.
You can propose to amend the agenda and place it on the agenda.
Okay. Then I'll move that we put it on the agenda right after the conflict of interest check 5A.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any other proposed changes to the agenda? Hearing none.
Motion to accept the agenda
As amended.
as amended. Thank you.
Second.
All right. Okay, the agenda is amended to add that item. Number 5, conflict of interest. State of North Carolina. Rules of procedure requires members to disclose any potential conflicts of interest. Please state if you have any potential conflicts. Mayor Holden does not. Mayor Pro Tem Myers.
No conflicts.
Excuse me just a minute. Upon reviewing the emails that we all received via the Freedom of Information Act, it's very apparent that there is a conflict of interest that exists with Commissioner Myers and Thomas in regards to matters related to the pier, since they also serve on the board of the Holden Beach Property Owners Association. Therefore, they should excuse themselves from any vote related to the pier this evening.
I think I would refer to the lawyer,
Yeah,
our lawyer, to determine whether we have a conflict of interest because of we're on the Holden Beach Association.
Because of the emails that were sent.
She needs to speak into the microphone.
Because of the emails that were sent in the FOIA.
The ones that we were all
Okay.
made turning in.
And
Yeah.
can you explain to me where the conflict is in that? Is there a certain page of those emails?
There was
Can you people here in the back?
There were several references made to the pier and what their plans were to do with the pier. So in other words, if they've already discussed it and talked about it, then there is a conflict of interest because that's what the POA.
Well, it's because they're on the board, two different boards, and they're discussing business about the pier. So that I would think that would be a conflict of interest if you're doing business as a board of the Property Owners Association, then to vote on it in the town as a board.
There are 2 separate boards though, right? And this one holds a separate power than the Property Owners Association.
They can't hear you.
The Property Owners Association's only goal is to represent the property owners, which is the same goal you guys have as this board, correct? Yes?
No, they're the Property Owners Association is supposed to give the property owners information.
Okay,
That's it. They're an
That's it?
informational deal, which that's not always what happens.
okay. I'm not sure.
But we're
how
not
this
here
would
for
be a
information.
conflict
We're
of
here to make
interest. There have been a
decisions.
lot of commissioners that have served on that board in the past, and also as a commissioner on this board. And it's
The
never been
past doesn't
a
matter.
conflict.
What they are currently members of that board.
Correct.
There's a conflict of interest.
I've already cleared them from conflict of interest for serving on that board after Rick Harkus stepped down from the board because the issue was.
It doesn't matter if
quorum.
there's 2 or 3. It's
We
the-
can argue all day about this, Commissioner Smith, but I understand what you're saying. It does matter if it's 2 or 3 because that represents a quorum. So every time they would meet, it would be a conflict of interest because we'd have to call a full meeting. But I don't see a conflict of interest in solely serving on that board and also
No,
serving on this board.
It's not solely serving on the board. It's conducting business about the pier as board members of the POA and then voting on business with the pier as a board member of the commission. That's the
That's a
conflict of
conflict
interest.
of interest.
I don't believe that's
Is it
happened
discussed?
since we've been sworn in December.
I know
I
it reached
haven't-
out for sailfish.
Right, we discussed sailfish, and we've discussed in the past if there was an issue with you being on both boards. Could you please direct me to the page that the emails are on?
There's 56 pages of email.
Which we haven't had any access to, by the way. I guess you had access to them, but I haven't seen any of them except for the ones that I submitted.
Thought we
It was
all
a
had
Freedom of Information Act.
Freedom of Information Act.
Yes,
Right.
but by one
But was it
person.
your
Did he share it
request?
with you?
Yeah.
I looked them up. That's why it's the Freedom of Information Act.
What are the
Well,
dates on the emails? Was it before these commissioners were seated?
We would just,
No,
I don't have
seriously.
them with me.
You're still on that board.
Right. and
Doesn't matter.
And the lawyer is saying, Sydney's saying that it's not a conflict of interest to be on both boards. She's already researched it. That is not a conflict of interest.
Right, like, I'm just trying to understand exactly what page of the emails that you're asking me for. I have them pulled up right now, and I've read through them. Granted, it was very early in the morning, but,
It's a, we just,
you know, it's,
if there's not a conflict of interest, there's not a conflict of interest.
I don't see discussing the pier in an email unless you can point me to the exact wording where it's an issue, which I'm happy to look at.
I didn't
It's okay. We'll vote on it.
Right.
print the exact, I just printed the part that they would, you can't do both. And that's exactly
Could you
it.
point me to where you've seen in either the charter or the North Carolina statutes where it says you cannot do both?
No, it's just a conflict of interest, conducting the business
Okay.
with
a
two
non-
different boards.
Yeah, but it's a nonprofit board and it represents the homeowners. I think Sydney's already done the research that says it is not a conflict of interest to be on the HBPOA board and the commission, be a commissioner.
We're not arguing
Is-
that.
I thought that's what you just said.
No, we're arguing about voting on the pier because you conducted business under both boards. So we're just, the only thing we're talking about is voting on matters of the pier.
Correct.
That's the only thing.
Well, unless you can show us what it was, I don't think that,
Yeah, I don't know what the nature of the conflict is.
I think you'd have to have proof.
Again, I'm happy to review it if someone can show me a page that it's on. I just, unless they are able to vote in that organization for actual things that are done on the pier that have any sort of effect rising to the level of actual business.
I'm just requesting that they abstain from voting on the pier this evening because of the possibility of the conflict.
I don't know that that's appropriate. I feel like it's a really big ask for a conflict that it isn't proven to me.
Would you consider deferring this to the next BOC so it can get sorted out? Item 19?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna move on if that's what the attorney says to do. Is that your opinion?
Yes, sir, and I just want everyone to know, you can reach out to me at any time, and I can do extra research when I'm given time. If you want to email me and ask me ahead of time, I can pull up every single thing that's relevant, and we can share documents, but please do that in the future. because
Well, I
want to
did
get everything
most of that
right.
reading this afternoon. I'm sorry.
Okay. It's okay, I understand, I want to make sure everyone's.
Right's
doing
right, wrong's wrong.
Well, it's just, The conflict of interest check was added in, so if we're gonna discuss the conflict of interest, it's just bringing it up. If it's not a conflict of interest, we'll move on, it's not a problem.
Understandable.
Because we reached out to Sydney when Sailfish came up, because it was the same situation. The POA agreed to help Sailfish, and she did the research and said we were okay. So I have not asked on this one, but my assumption is that it's
Well,
a
I mean,
similar.
it's just, the item on the agenda is conflict of interest check, so we just brought it up. If it's not a problem, we'll move on.
Okay.
Okay,
Let's move on.
all right, the question, Mr. Smith, do you have any conflicts?
None, sir.
Ms. Thomas, do you have any conflicts?
No conflict.
Dr. Dyer, do you?
No, sir.
Commissioner Parkhurst, do you?
No, sir.
All righty, we'll conduct business. All right, number 6 on the agenda,
5A.
April meeting, 5A.
We amended the agenda so we could,
okay. Did we vote on that?
no, we're just to it now.
Okay.
What I'd like to do, if it's- go ahead.
We did vote on approving the agenda with the amendments, right,
Okay.
to add 5A.
Okay, so you want to do that now? All right, I'm sorry.
No worries.
All right, 5A.
I'd like to move the April meeting from the 16th. I'd like to move to the 30th. I figure that's the most convenient because we have another meeting on the 30th, so we can have everybody here, but any day that week would be fine. That's a Tuesday. We have a special meeting already scheduled for 5:30.
Move it out 2 more weeks?
Yes, sir.
So is that a motion, Alan, or is that just a?
I'm trying to catch up and keep up with you people. I'm sorry, there's a lot bouncing around. The meeting that you want to change is what day?
April 16th.
At 5 o'clock.
Yes,
And you want to move it to the 30th?
yes,
But we have a meeting at 5:30 on the 30th.
yes. Well, I figured that was a date that you guys would be here.
But you can't have a Board of Commissioners meeting at 5 and then another meeting at 5:30.
Right, we'd have to move the budget meeting, special meeting. Or we can do it the 29th. That was a day I figured we'd save people a trip coming down here.
So, Alan, does he have to make a motion to do that, or are we just gonna have a discussion?
Well, he can
I don't have my
always make,
calendar with me.
he can always make a motion,
Well,
you can always vote on it. I'm just trying to figure out if I can come on the 30th. I've got other appointments on 30.
But the motion would be to move the meeting that's scheduled for the 5:30, we'll pick a different date, but have the BOC meeting at 5 o'clock on April 30th, and we'll find another time for the budget meeting.
So I'll second it. And then we can have
Well,
discussion.
Here we go
Can-
again.
Did you say
I don't-
5 or 5:30?
5 o'clock for the BOC meeting.
Okay.
And then the budget meeting, which is scheduled for 5:30, we'll find another date, another time for that one.
Can you do 5:30
I
instead of
don't,
5?
I don't,
Yeah,
Sure.
5:30 is
can we
fine.
defer this until we can check our calendars? Because if I'd known
I've
about this
checked mine, and
before.
that's, you
Well,
know,
we had a meeting scheduled on that date,
For
so
5:30.
that's why I'm targeting that, is I figured it's already on
I
your
wasn't gonna be
calendar.
able to make that meeting anyways. But what I'm saying is we've already
Okay.
made mention of deferring some of the things from tonight's meeting until the April meeting, and then you're gonna move the meeting to the end of the month. You're just kicking the can further and further down the road, sir.
Did we defer something to April?
No, it was just a suggestion, and Paige didn't want to do that, so we'll address it tonight.
I mean, I could be here, any other day that week.
Okay, we can do the 29th. We picked that date because it was a scheduled meeting that we...
That's not fair to the public to take a Board of Commissioners meeting that's supposed to be on a Tuesday and move it to a Monday now. I don't think that's fair to the public.
Okay, well then we'll do it on the Tuesday, which was already a scheduled
Why can't we
meeting
do it
for
on the
financial.
23rd?
20
I just don't wanna move it all the way to the end of the month.
Is there a specific reason we're moving it?
Yeah, that would,
It's personal.
I had requested that the dates for the 23rd through the 26th be cordoned off because of previous staff commitments.
Right. So we probably don't have a financial meeting that week either, right,
You
David?
don't have any.
Right.
the 17th or 18th won't work.
And we'll just say, what days did David just say?
No, that's the week after. David said not the week after, so it has to be 2 weeks later. And Paige says don't make it on any day but a Tuesday, so that goes it back to the 30th.
I move that we move the meeting, we cancel the budget meeting that's scheduled for the 30th, and we move the BOC meeting to the 30th, starting at 5:30.
But
Second.
we have a
You know, we-
commissioner that can't be here.
Yeah, we make, plans around this, it's just like you do, it's personal. So, I mean, again, I can already see where this is going, so.
All right, so the motion is to cancel the 16th meeting.
No, yes. Move it
Move it.
to April 30th, starting at 5:30.
Everybody understand the motion?
Yes.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
All right, it's 3-2. Passed. So the budget expense meeting that we had scheduled for the 30th, what are we doing with that? If the town meeting's at 5,
At this point, it's canceled. We can reschedule it. If you want to schedule it now, we can reschedule it, or we can pick a date.
The one after that is May 2nd. It's only a couple days later.
So I would say just cancel it.
Expenses to
Yeah.
that.
okay. So no meeting, the 16th, town meeting 5:30, the 30th. Is that the summary of it, where we're going?
Yes.
Okay, and we just voted 3-2 to make that happen, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Can we try number 6 now? Consideration of approving the minutes. Try to save some time here. 6A, B, C, and D. Can we group that? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. All right, number 7, public comments. I have a list here. Madam Clerk, is this the final list?
Yes, sir.
All right. Tracy Berger. Come to the microphone, give us your name and address, please, ma'am.
Tracy Berger, 781 Ocean Boulevard, West. Good evening, Mayor Holden, Mayor Pro Tem Myers, and Commissioners. My name is Tracy Berger.
Ma'am, hold on just a
Not
minute.
close enough?
Pull them, there you go.
Okay. My name is Tracy Berger, and I'm representing the alliance aptly named Neighbors of 796. First, we would like to express our appreciation and support of the action request which has been submitted by Commissioner Thomas and Mayor Pro Tem Myers regarding disposition of the property at 796 Ocean Boulevard West. We believe the action request concisely and correctly presents the issues involved in this decision, and we fully endorse the proposed action of soliciting bids from realtors to sell the property. I'm also submitting, for the record, 3 letters expressing the concerns of our members. With apologies, I don't have the printing capacity to have done it for everybody, so I'm just submitting them. In respect for everyone's time, I'm only going to read one of the letters, and it's not that long. This is from Ann Odom. Dear Commissioners, first of all, thank you for listening to the voices of Holden Beach property owners who count on you to make sound, common sense decisions regarding beach issues. My family has owned property on the island since 1944. To say that we have seen changes is an understatement. The growth over the past few years has exploded, and Holden Beach is an inviting destination for many. My continuing concern focuses on the property at 796 OBW, which is beside the parking lot and sewer station and across from our cottage. While the parking lot has been its own set of issues, using 796 property for any kind of public venue is just unacceptable and would be a costly endeavor for the town. It would be a great advantage to the town to sell the property and let it remain a part of our residential community. Opening it to the public would require things like making it handicapped accessible by putting in an elevator to accommodate people with physical limitations. Also, just the liability issue of creating a public property would entail insurance costs as well as continuing maintenance and monitoring. For public expansion, you already have property that would be ideal for a variety of things. Use the pier property for future projects, which might even include space for a restaurant, arcade, and other amenities. And parking would not be a problem. Again, thank you for making the right decision concerning 796. Selling the property will be an advantage for the town and residents of the area. I would like to close by requesting that the committee members consider both the impact of this decision on the neighbors of 796 and the context in which the decision will be made. By that, I'm sorry, did you say 3 minutes?
Yeah, that's been 3 minutes.
By that, I refer to the extraordinary legacy that separates Holden Beach from the other islands. We are a family island. Maintaining the property as residential would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Sylvia Pate.
Sylvia Pate, 111 Charlotte Street. I want to address the issue on number 9 about the pavilion. From my reviewing of the engineer's report, it looks like we aren't going to have any choice except to demolish the pavilion, much to my regret. But in place of that, I know we had talked about for the concerts for this summer, possibly moving it over to Bridgewater. But I've heard a lot of people in the community that seem to be opposed to that idea. My suggestion would be, if we're going to have to demolish it, let's just go ahead and demolish it and at least get a temporary stage or something over there to get us through the concert season for this summer. And I think then we can look at rebuilding it back at the current location where it's located at. As far as the parking fees, I'm a little confused about why we're talking about increasing the parking fees, because we've already opened it up for this year, or at least that's my understanding, unless you're talking about for next year. But if we're talking about increasing the parking fees for this year, I would suggest that we not do that. I realize that we're losing 50 parking spaces, it looks like, from the manager's report, but I would recommend that we leave the fees like they are. And probably it's just not going to be real popular, but I don't recommend that we give residents passes. I think our situation in Holden Beach is a little bit different in the way we're laid out in some of the other areas that do give resident passes, but I would not be supportive of that. And also, I would be supportive of us extending it year-round. Hopefully that will help us offset the loss that we're going to get on those 50 that we're losing. As far as the item number 19 for the request for the pier, I know that there's been 2 attempts to try to get you to put the bid back out to see what the cost would really be to do the repairs using the jet, whatever you call it, the jet watering method, if you will. And you haven't done that, but I don't know all the particulars about what's going to be proposed on number 19, but I would think this maybe is another opportunity for you at least to see what you can get back with trying to get a private entity to do it. I know the initial plan for the pier was to lease out the pier and the pier building, so maybe you need to put it out there and see what you can get back, and maybe something that you can work with, and you might be actually surprised what you might get back. And then the last thing on there is 796. While I really would prefer that you use that as a community center, which is what Parks and Rec had recommended a long time ago, and it didn't ever happen, you could do that and also use part of it for restrooms for the beach access there. But if you're not going to do it, if you're not going to use it for a community center or anything else, then I would agree you might as well sell it, because there's no point in it sitting there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Marty Arrowood.
Marty Arrowwood, 114 Shrimp Street. I'm addressing the parking situation. I don't support, and I live on the island, sending out free passes to all property owners. I'm asking you, have you taken how many parking places are available and how many free passes that you're going to be sending out? And personally, I've already been contacted by one of my teacher friends off the island because they know you can change the license plates one time during the year, and they've offered me $100 for my pass if we get one for a property owner. So have you looked at how much that we could possibly lose financially if there are that many passes out there that were free versus the paid parking? As far as 796 goes, you know, as far as community center, whatever, I don't recommend us right now selling any assets or doing anything with assets until the ADA compliant assessment y'all have asked for has been done. Thank you.
Cindy Ridenhour.
This is just a general comment, but my name is Cindy Ridenhour. I own 108 Jordan Boulevard, the HB trolley stop. Thursday night, unfortunately, we lost our business. Watching the minutes from last night's meeting was really discouraging. As a business owner out here on the beach, we built our business around our community, and we gave Holden Beach something that people came to us and said they needed. We needed for a while. My family was devastated as I watched our building burn to the ground. Alan Holden, I just want to thank you, from the bottom of my heart for coming out there that night. We did notice you, and we appreciate it. I'm very discouraged about the fact that when I watched those meetings, I heard the thing say, or somebody say, read the can. Read the can and laugh. That discourages me as a business owner on Holden Beach. Putting in as much effort and things that I put in, and to hear the tourists come out and talk to me about our beach, the things that they said to us about our beach, how much they love it here. But to know that I have commissioners on this board that do not support my business, to make comments like that is very discouraging. So I just wanted to put that out there, and just to let you know that you might want to watch what you say. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Jim Bauer.
Jim Bauer, 329 Ocean Boulevard West. Items 8, 9, and 19 talks about street work, the pavilion, and the pier. I still think we're missing the ball on this. The lift station should be the one and only priority to get that done before any other money is spent on any other project. It should be the sine qua non of what we should be doing this year. And if we could get it done, even some remediation, so that if it does flood, and we can keep the pumps running, that will keep the renters in their homes and ourselves in our homes. I think that's incredibly, incredibly important. Item 19. We talk about the pier. I want to thank you all for not funding anything to do with the pier. That'll give the entire community time to find out what we want to do. There should be public interaction. There should be public notice, public comment, which is guaranteed once again in our Constitution. And what we should do is we should now ask the homeowners, and only the homeowners, what they want to do with the pier property and anything else that we have. 796 OBW, item 20. Sell it. In fact, sell all of the unused property that we have. Why are we in the business of this? We talk about the cost of the ADA lifts and ramps and all these other things. If we sell this property and it stops being public, what you've done is you've taken one more of the ADA problems that we have and gotten rid of it. There is no more insurance load to be borne by the town. And you've also brought another property back onto the taxable rolls, thereby increasing the amount of money that the town has in order to spend. And the owls, which I see, I know it's one of the items. It's great, it's fantastic, and it's a fantastic thing to see that we're actually reaching out to the homeowners, and instead of looking at a single picture, that we can start to actually see what's going on in the meeting, see the people that are talking about. By the way, if anybody knows what these owls are, these interactive video things that are up here, excuse me. And it's great to see that. It's great to see the board as a whole moving forward to bring people, the homeowners, into the process and into this community. And I thank you very much for that. Thanks.
Lisa Ragland.
Hey, everybody. I sent some comments in via email, but I wanted to go over a few and just elaborate. First of all, I was thanking all of the board members, Board of Commissioners, the mayor, and the staff for all the hard work that you do. I know that we don't always agree, but I'm appreciative that we have collaboration and synergy, and we can come together and discuss things that are important to our town. The items that I am most concerned about tonight, number 9, the pavilion. I'll reiterate what's already been said. In a nutshell, we need the summer concerts. They are beneficial to small business owners. They are supportive of our occupancy tax. We have a lot of people who have already booked their vacation weeks. They're expecting to have those concerts. So we've got to find a remedy to that, whether it's, putting a temporary stage or, getting some bids out there to get another one rebuilt. We got to do something with that. Number 11, parking. I actually am not opposed to giving residents a discounted pass, but I do disagree with giving it to them for free, most notably during the middle of our year because of the fact that people have already bought passes. They already spent $150 for them, and I think someone else actually mentioned that if they sold those to people off the island, that's going to reduce the amount of revenue that's generated from the parking. So I would say table parking until we're in a new budget year. Item number 19, in regards to the pier. You have absolutely no idea what type of bids you might get. It might be free. You actually might be able to open the pier, get the parking revenue, keep the part-of grant, be in compliance, continue to build equity in a real estate oceanfront property that the town owns, and it not cost you anything. So I would say put it out there and see what you get. It also might generate some revenue for the town through the leasing. And if you're taking away 50 spaces because of bike lanes and you're going to offer residents free parking, then we need to keep the pier parking lot as a revenue source for the town. The last item that I'm responding to is going to be number 20. You guys will probably be shocked. I think you should sell 796 OBW. I also think that you should reallocate the funds that come into that. I know they're going into water and sewer fund. Maybe you can finish the sewer lift station with that. Finally, if you do sell 796 OBW, you've got to also take into account the complaints that we're receiving for the ADA compliant bathrooms. There is nothing from the pier south. So if you get rid of that, you're going to have to come up with something else. That might be for another night. But anyway, thanks again for all you do.
Will Carter.
Will Carter, 108 Starfish Drive. Everybody knows I'm looking for a new concrete pier with a community center on it, something we can have a wedding reception in and whatnot. And since we bought the pier, nobody has ever put forward anybody to draw up a plan, see what it would cost, see if we can get the funding, see if we can get the financing. But I had a group of people that were ready to draw that pier up, and they were going to pay me. We were all going to pay about $1,000 a piece to get this this plan drawn up, and so we could get a price on everything. And I had Commissioner Smith call me up, and he said, "Oh, I saw this plan for a new pier, and it's not going to cost us anything." And I said, "Well, who did it?" "Well, I can't tell you. I got home from talking to a few of the people that were going to help draw up a plan for a new concrete pier with community center, 1,000 feet, last for 50 years, something that the town could be proud of. And I got a call from Brian Murdoch, 5 o'clock. Says, did you see my picture of my pier? I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You see my picture?" I said, "Where is it?" He says, "It's on Facebook." I said, "Well, I don't do Facebook." Then he told me Greg Shue had already drawn the picture. It's on Greg Shue's website under blog. Brian said he'll pay for the whole thing, won't cost anybody anything, and just gonna do that because out of the nicest of his heart. Well, you know, that's just like rebuilding the other 59 Volkswagens were sitting out there before, parking it out front. Same 2 rooms, same little aisle going through. I said, what are you gonna do about the pier? He said, I'm gonna fix it up so everybody can get out there. I said, well, what about the other 250 feet? Well, we would like to do something about that later. I said, so basically what you're saying, we got an observation deck with a new pier that you're gonna run and take care of it. Well, yeah, take a look at it, So I looked at it, and it's on Greg Shoe's website, on the blog, new idea for the Holden Beach Pier. And it doesn't look like anything very fancy to me. Not on $3.5 million oceanfront lot where we could have one of the finest piers on the eastern coast. And, you know, a place to have wedding receptions, something people would be proud to go to, something my 20-year-old kids would go to. People from 20 to 40 aren't going to stop at that old pier to go into the 2 rooms and eat a cheeseburger. You know, that was cool back when the only place we had to go eat was the Ebb Tide over here. And when Jane's Seafood opened up, wow, that was something else. We didn't have to drive to Calabash. But that was 1959. You know, we can do a little bit better on a $3.5 million property. And we can get financing from the government. And as far as financing goes, in 26, 27, $291,000 drops off for this building right here. And I think Ann Arnold's the only one that was here with us when we were fighting this building. We had no resident input on it whatsoever. This building was built by the building inspector, the chief of police, and the Steve Wheeler, the town manager. Anyway, there's $291,000 there. Our sewer fee goes up in 2025. That's $1.5 million that everybody's paying $500 on their taxes right now. And there's another $1.3 that goes for the sand outreach. That's over $3 million that we have to go to this new pier. You need to get a plan drawn up, and you need to get it figured out.
Thanks, sir. Did we miss anybody that's supposed to be able to speak? All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I'd like to speak to the Rittenhauers. They're absolutely correct. I was the one who made that unkind comment at the time. I've messed with oil stains and stuff. But you're absolutely right. That comment was totally uncalled for and not kind. And I'd like to apologize to you. And I'm sorry for your loss. I really am. And I'm deeply sorry for offending you. Thank you.
That means a lot because you made a joke out of our misfortune.
That's really not who I am, and I own it, and I apologize.
Okay, we're going to move to number 8, I believe. Mr. Clemens?
Yeah, good evening. Number 8 in your package is in reference to High Point Street, resurfacing of that street. The bids for resurfacing High Point Street have been advertised in the newspaper and on the town website. Highland Paving was the only bidder at $115,250, which falls into the informal bid procedures. Informal bid does not require a certain number of bids or defined advertising process before award. The bid received by Highland Paving is within budget, and the board can make an award if they choose to do so. It'll be staff's recommendation to award the bid. It really does line up good with what we got going on now. Highland Paving's actually the crowd that's doing the DOT project, and actually I think we got some good prices being they didn't have to mobilize and they were already here. And I'm hoping we can move forward with this and resurface that street on the way out. And it is right straight out of our street assessment survey that we do every year, where we actually pave a street every year. So whatever your pleasure is, I guess that's where we'll proceed to.
All right, questions or comments from the commissioners?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
I think it's, Chris has a legitimate point with having all the equipment right here. It can be taken care of quickly and more economically right now than later.
I think this motion also includes authorizing the town manager to go ahead and execute, just to be clear, so.
Any further discussion or questions? If not, you ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
I will say it
A
seems good.
unanimous vote.
How about
Very good, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Clemens.
Finally, the stars line up on one thing that we do.
We're on number 9, Mr. Myers and Ms. Thomas.
Pavilion. I'll start. The engineer's completed the evaluation we asked him to. This is the second one that he's gone through. The findings are very clear. It needs to be closed, and the cost to repair it will likely exceed the cost of replacing it. Some of the other words in the report say, based on our 2 investigations and evaluations, the pavilion has not been constructed, repaired, or improved in accordance with any engineering plans, and as the structure continues to deteriorate, it becomes more plausible that a wind event and/or gravity alone will result in significant damage and/or collapse of this structure. So I think it's time to give up on our efforts to try to save it and make it into something that's not, and we need to follow our engineer's recommendations. And the most responsible course of action for us is to take it down to avoid the risk of somebody getting hurt, since we know it's a problem.
So I'm going to make a motion to request that the staff send out an RFP to tear down the current pavilion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Well, looking at the same report, the part that jumped out to me that they were re-evaluating some of the previously designated repairs that they suggested back in 2010. My question is, why weren't any of those done, number one?
They weren't funded by the Board of Commissioners.
Yes, sir, that's what I'm good to hear. Thank you, David. Number 2 is that the pavilion structure itself, the roof section, I think is the part of the pavilion that is in question. And I think instead of demolishing the entire structure, that we should first get the dangerous part of the pavilion removed, and then have our own town inspector get engineers to look at it and see if it's capable of having a much simpler, lighter weight, protective covering over the top of it so we can have concerts. I don't disagree with taking the top down. We've unfortunately had to wrestle with this for a couple of years, and it's not gotten any better, and we couldn't get any support to do anything otherwise. But as far as just a clean slate, I think that the decking part of that structure is adequate to support itself and support people on it. The only thing I can do is direct a question to Tim and ask him what his thoughts would be on that process.
Before Mr. Evans answers, I'd like to ask a couple questions regarding the action proposed by the commissioners. If I may.
That's great.
Because the motion is to tear down the current pavilion and leaving the stage there, with the assumption that we can put something back over it. Is looking at the practical side of it, or what we're asking a contractor, a demolition contractor, to do is to assume the liability for protecting what's going to be left. That may be a problem.
I didn't say anything about the stage, it just said tear.
You said tear the pavilion down.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about the superstructure from the hip up, from the waist up, leaving the stage, is that what you're really talking about?
No, because.
You're talking about tearing the whole mess down?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
got it.
Because it says the pilings are bad and the decking is bad too. So they said the cost of replacing it would exceed, cost of repairing it would exceed, you should just tear it down a new one.
Well, and
No, I'm
that's
saying
to
the
my
whole
point,
thing.
is just to clarify that leaving the stage and asking a contractor to remove the superstructure.
That's what Rick Smith is proposing, to take the roof off and leave the stage, which I think would be more costly because you have to be careful, right? Whereas if you just take the whole thing down, it would be less expensive than just taking the roof potentially.
Mr. Evans, can you summarize where the town is and so forth?
Summarize where the town's at, based off of this, thank you. Based off of this document, the structure's got to be tore down. He alludes to the fact, their report alludes to the fact, to the failure of the foundation and then the failure of the repairs that didn't address that foundation portion. It was basically, it was poorly built. That's the reason I condemned it the first day I got here. And there was a design and then a temporary design or a temporary fix that was compromised based off of what the board would allow us to do that has kept it in place for all these years. But it never did, just as the report says, it never did address any of that. Now, when I was talking about it before, I was looking for an opportunity to try to relieve some of the stress off of the foundation, but I have to go under the statutory requirements. I got to go with this engineer letter. And this letter alludes both only to the foundation requirements and to the uplift requirements of it not meeting it right in the very first portion of it. So if you're asking me what you're supposed to do with that building at this point, or what I've got to do at this point, I've got to go down there. Once y'all say something, I would have to, whether you did or not, go down there, post this building as a condemnation, put a condemnation on it, just like I did the first time. I would have to close it. And if y'all decide not to tear it down, then you're going to put me in an adversary position with the board to have a hearing with you and give you an order to remove it. And then you'll be in another adversary position because it's going to have to go to an administrative board somewhere if y'all fail to act. So I think this report is pretty precise. It's pretty clear. It's very professionally done. I've read it 3 or 4 times. It needs to be took down.
My line of question was just to make sure that there's a distinction between tearing the whole mess down and
that was my motion.
leaving the deck. And I just wanted to make sure that we were clear
I
on
seconded that motion, and my understanding was it's all going down.
The whole pavilion.
The whole pavilion. That was my understanding of the motion.
I was just wanting to make sure that we had it clear.
Okay. All right, any more discussion?
Well, with the motion of tearing it down completely, is there any plans to do anything else?
So,
Not as part of this motion.
Can I make a discussion?
Nope, as part of this motion.
Doctor, you want to say something?
So in light of tearing it down, and it was mentioned earlier about the concerts are already scheduled, homeowners have scheduled, people have rented homes in light of seeing these concerts and everything. And it has been mentioned, I think, previously, to rent a structure would cost about $4,000 an event. Did we ever? An event, which would be a week. So you're looking at 4 weeks to 5 weeks, $16,000 to $20,000 a month for 3 to 4 months. And, we need to honor those contracts. I know that we've set up a situation that's going to be temporary at the picnic pavilion, is that correct? And I know that there's some mention of, things that we have to be aware of being that close to the people that live in those condos. So I'm not sure if it would be too much to ask in the RFP, instead of just doing demolition, why we couldn't get a quote to rebuild the pavilion there.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Christy, but as a short-term, your short-term solution was for the entire season, correct? That was the plan?
That's correct. And Chief Dixon and I did meet. The property owners at the condos sent Town Manager Hewitt a letter, which he forwarded to me, and Chief Dixon and Lieutenant Dilworth and I met with those property owners, their representative, and as long as we work with them and tell them how we plan to address crowd control, ingress and egress, they seem to be happy at the moment with what we are planning. We just need to keep them in the loop. So that's the current plan.
Yeah, I spoke to their representative also, and he was very pleased with your plan and your reaction to them, so they're very happy.
We did tell them up front that we didn't have everything worked out yet.
Yep.
With some of their questions, so I will say that part.
So, yeah, they've been very helpful. I've spoken to him myself. But you have to keep in mind also, since we're tearing the pavilion down, what would it hurt to get a bid to not only just demolish it, to go ahead and rebuild it? Because what you're going to do is you're going to take the stress off of having to run electrical outlets, having to do bathrooms. And certainly what's going to happen is if you live in that condo and a fire starts, how are you going to get a fire truck to your condo? So this would be an easy fix to just, if you got to tear the pavilion down anyway, why wouldn't you get an estimate or a quote or a bid to just go ahead and demolish it and replace it? And that would take a lot of work off the staff.
I'd like to try to answer that, if I may. The prime reason that that structure has failed is because it wasn't built in accordance with an engineered plan. And that is a correct statement. And in order to put out an RFP to tear down and rebuild, I got to have a plan, which has to be designed by an engineer for a public facility. That's an entirely separate process to do.
It's the second toughest occupancy. It's going to be an A4 assembly
It's
occupancy.
not something to
outside,
pencil whip.
It's not going to be exempt from everything.
It's not something to pencil whip. It's going to be a lot easier RFP to write and tear it down than the engineering permitting that's going to have to go along with that. I would not be surprised if the process to obtain an engineer, get the designs, bids, permits, wouldn't be surprised a bit if that process didn't take 9 to 12 months.
Hey, David, let me ask.
Before you go out to bid and construct it. Tell me if I'm wrong, Tim.
All right, there's some other issues over there.
Yeah.
I'm just, yeah, we haven't really decided where we're going to put the new pavilion, so that's part of why I don't want to connect them. I would rather just take the one down that needs to go down so it's not an issue, and then we can have discussions later about where a new one will go.
Okay.
Along those lines, I believe that pavilion, because a friend of mine is the real estate attorney with the Wilmington District, and he was talking about having to come inspect that pavilion. So the Corps, it might be in the Corps' right of way, and then they're going to be involved looking at it.
It is.
And I can tell you that's not a speedy process.
We're going to have to, somebody's going to look at it, somebody's going to give us a letter, and they're going to have other criteria to go with it. I'm sure that's some of the reasons.
There's an encroachment agreement with the Corps.
Right. Okay.
But not to tear it down.
Right.
All right. Are you ready to vote?
Yes.
Yes. Do we need to reread the motion just to make sure it's clear?
I have one question, if I may.
It's right in there.
And it goes to your motion. What kind of time frame are you looking at? When you want it, when you want the RFP to go out, and when would you look at deconstruction occurring?
I would say RFP for whatever's reasonable for the staff to do, given what's on their plate.
I like that.
You're welcome. And then we'll see what the bids come back on the time frame.
Okay, we're going to try it again.
Sorry.
Ready to vote, right?
Yep.
All in favor of the motion? Everybody understand the motion?
Yep, it's written right in the cover sheet.
Everyone in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. It's unanimous, Madam Clerk.
Can I just make one other comment? When I wrote this cover sheet, you didn't have the red tape around the stage area. I see that it's there now, but we might want to put some signs up that say danger or keep off or something. That was my other bullet. I'll leave that to your discretion, David.
Okay.
Okay, we're on number 10. Mr. Hewitt.
Yeah. The short version is that we've got Jim Varner from Auto Connect here tonight with us, and please, Jim, speak up if I say something wrong. The short version is that the installation of the bike lanes is going to take up right-of-way on the east end to such an extent that it compromises our ability to use about 50 spaces along McCrae Street between Avenue A and Doomscape. And what the recommendation here is to change the ordinance to delete those from the paid parking table.
Anybody want to make a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
A second.
Discussion?
I just had I didn't realize there was an encroachment agreement and wetlands there. That kind of struck me.
If we would have to clear the right-of-way there, we're assuming that we would have to get an encroachment agreement, especially if it required a stormwater solution with some type of bulkheading along there. I can't build the structure without an encroachment agreement with DOT. So we're assuming that there would be an encroachment agreement. There would be significant permitting required there. We got to clear the shoulder of road, and it's angled about like that in many places, and it's just too steep. The drop between the drop-off of the pavement down to grade and then the grade also falling off and it being soft sand, it's just not practical to think somebody can park there.
No, I understand that. I just didn't realize that it was wetlands to begin with, or it was an encroachment.
Right next to it, if there are several areas right along there that are they've got that majestic dog fennel or something like that, which is the prototypical wetland plant.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
It's got cattails and foxtails. It's got all the indications of wetlands, and it runs all the way through there. And we've got wetlands in the typical, unusual wetlands in some areas on our dunes. So those dunes are creating some of that situation. That is wetland.
Okay. Did we have a motion and a second?
Yeah, we have a motion.
And a second. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Number 10 is unanimously approved. Number 11, Mr. Myers and Ms. Thomas.
Okay, so I'll take this one. So you can see in the cover sheet, I put down several of our local islands and what they pay, and we're undercharging for our paid parking, given the fact that we're losing revenue from 50 spots. I'm going to take this in just stages. So the first motion is going to be to extend the season and charge for parking year-round.
I'll second it.
So you're going to do all these in separate motions?
Yeah, because I don't want to get caught up in, some of them might be more controversial than others, so I'm just going to do them one at a time, if that's okay. So that's the first one.
Could you repeat that, please?
So it's just extend the season and charge for parking year-round. And it's second,
I
so
second
we
it.
can discuss it now.
I think until we provide the amenities that we promised with the paid parking program, I think it would be I don't think it would be smart to extend the season to a whole year until that's taken care of, because we took away the boat parking. We haven't provided new bathrooms, which we promised we would do. So I just don't see how saying we're going to charge you for parking for the summer and not do the things we said we would do, and now we're going to extend it for a whole year. I don't think that's right.
We had to put up with a lot of grief when we bought the pier, but the reason for the paid parking was to help offset the cost of the pier. I mean, it's, again, our tourism is the backbone of this community. I know that our homeowners are the big taxpayers, but if we didn't have the tourism, our tax would be Bald Head Island taxes. So again, you know, it's hard to justify, you know, increasing the prices and increasing all this stuff, and we're not giving the people that come to visit anything. We haven't done what we said we were going to do to Block Q. We haven't done anything to the pier. It's just one of those, you know, I know we need to be in line with everybody else, but that's just my 2 cents.
Any more discussion?
Well, I continue to be amazed by how many people are here, what we would typically consider off-season. I mean, it used to be nobody was here after Labor Day. And, I mean, right now, January, February, you drive by the pier lot and it's pretty close to full. And we see them on the beach, mostly shell seekers this time of year that are out. And I've talked to a couple of them when I ran into them on the beach, and they're driving here from Ohio for a weekend to go shell hunting. So I don't think an extra couple of bucks for parking is going to change their view of the beach. And it seems like we are attracting more and more people every year, and I have not heard any complaint when I've been out there that it's the parking that's going to drive them away. They're here because of what we have to offer.
I just want to throw out some numbers for you. So just the pier alone, the utilities and insurance is $34K a year. And we don't, if we had parking for those 95 spots for 150, that would be $14K. So that's just for the utilities, which is the insurance, the water, electric. It's $34K a year, and parking in the pier would bring in approximately $14,000 if it was season passes. That doesn't even count the debt on what we bought the pier for. So we pay $273K a year on the mortgage on the pier, $273K. We don't stop paying that in the off season. I don't stop paying my taxes to be able to get to the beach. So I don't feel like asking them to continue to pay for some of those. We still have to pick up the garbage. We still have to, you know, all year round. If they come, we pick up the garbage. We provide bathrooms all year round, not the fancy ones because we have to turn off the water, but it's there for longer than what we're asking them to pay at this point. So that's just my justification that the prices need to go up and we need to charge year round.
We don't provide bathrooms all year round.
There's a porta pot there right now?
Where?
David, at the pier?
I'm talking about all the other areas we're charging for parking. 796, there's not a porta potty there all year round. And we had to close the pier bathrooms for the winter. So now you're going to tell people you can't go to the bathroom. Can I finish, please? You could tell people they can't go to the bathroom at the pier, but you're going to increase their prices of what they're going to pay to come here, and you're going to shut down the bathroom. You're going to take the porta potty away from 796, and you're going to tell them, well, you have to pay to park there. I'm not opposed to raising the prices or doing it year-round, but you cannot do it until we start giving people what we said we were going to give them when we started paid parking. So give them what we said we would do, then we can raise the prices. Also, we've already started charging for the season.
Well, then, yeah, we'll get to that. That's a different item.
Any more discussion?
I have a question. When you say to go to year-round parking, and this may be down in the weeds technical for Jim, and I'm thinking in terms of what would be the stop date? What's the beginning of the year? How would that work?
So at this point, I would say the start would be April 1st, since that is our start, and it would give Jim all that time till October to make the change, to switch over, that it extends past what we normally have right now, saying that it closes on October.
Would you say that again? I didn't follow
It
it.
would begin on April 1st.
Like 8 days away.
Which is when it normally starts, correct?
Okay. Yeah.
And then he has all the way until October 31st to make the changes, when it would be extended past October 31st.
Back to the following 30 March.
Correct, to the following March 31st. Is that acceptable to make that change?
Yeah, that's not a problem. We run this on a calendar year. So if we started April 1st, we just run it through the end of the year, and then January 1st start again for the next year. But given that we've got plenty of time to extend our system, yeah, that's not a problem.
Okay.
I have a question. Sure. So I assume year-round would include year-round enforcement?
That's correct.
Okay.
And that's, we would have to look at the volume and the resources that we would need to retain for the whole year to support that. But that is something that we do for other towns already.
Is that going to have a contract implication with you?
This will require an amendment to the contract. It is not a contract itself, it's just an amendment, statement of work for what the town is authorized and need to do.
Amendment to the statement of work is a amendment to the contract.
That's correct.
Okay.
You're always amending the contract. It just is an amendment to the contract.
So that's your action.
Yeah, it's
And
usually a one-page.
your action, I mean, you're wanting to get to go to year-round, but your ultimate action, and it may include some of these other things in here, would be
Right.
the contract amendment.
Yeah, well,
Barrister, I
it-
need
yeah,
some
it
help
would
there
mean-
on that. Wouldn't you think that a statement of work amendment is a contract amendment, and since these items would impact that the action would be to amend the contract?
Yeah, ultimately.
Okay.
I'm not sure what categories Tracy has everything divided into. If you want to make that motion now, or you want to wait till.
No, I can make it now, because I wanted to do them all individually, so.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to mess it up. I'm just
No, you're
trying to-
fine, you're fine, I'm just gonna,
Let me make it real clear.
Yep.
Same thing that we did last year when we changed the rates.
Got it.
It is, the board needs to approve a motion for the town manager to execute an amendment to the contract to support whatever you decide. And then the town manager and I have the responsibility of working through the details.
okay, thank you. So I'm gonna amend, Alan, I'm gonna amend my motion.
Okay.
My motion is gonna be to instruct staff to do a contract amendment to extend the season to year-round parking.
Do you
I agree with the second, yes.
the amendment? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Everybody understand the amended motion? All right, any more discussion? Ready to vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no.
No.
It's 3-2, Madam Clerk. You still have the floor?
Okay, now I'm gonna make a motion to extend the contract, to amend the contract to charge the rates of $5 per day, or per hour, $5 per hour, keep the 20 per day, the 80 per week, and change the season to 200.
I'll second that for discussion.
Anybody want to discuss it?
Yeah, I'd like to see, I'm sorry, Paige, go ahead.
So how does that work for the people who've already purchased the $150 pass?
So I would consider that an early bird special, and then we would have this implemented on April 1st. And I think Jim can change that on April 1st.
Any permits that have already been sold for the season,
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
any permits that have already been sold for the season are grandfathered in for this year.
Right.
They are fixed, we have contractual requirements for those people, per the town instructions, to honor those permits. If we change it, it's just on any given day going forward, sales from that point forward are at the new rate.
And I would make that April 1st.
My,
He's got the floor there.
Thank you. It's hard to keep the ricks straight, isn't it? I would like that yearly pass to be 175. And I'll be frank with you folks, I think as we've been going through our budget process that the town has some revenue issues. But I think on the personal basis, we all have some revenue issues. So I would like to see that yearly pass be 175 instead of 200.
Rick, I agree with that. In fact, I really, I understand the hourly, and you're gonna make the day the same.
Yeah.
And then, the year pass is now what, 150?
150.
So they didn't, but a $25 increase, so I don't guess that's that much of a big deal, since we've already gonna have it a year round anyway.
Okay, any more discussion?
I think it's unfair to the people that have been using the boat ramp, paying for a boat and a trailer to raise the prices now when we took away the boat parking over there is a slap in their face.
Yep.
I didn't realize we took away the boat park.
The boat parking that we were gonna add that was paved so they could pull through that they asked for.
So we have the same boat parking now we've always had, is that correct?
That's not what I said.
That's
We
what
took-
I'm trying to understand.
When we did paid parking, and as the boaters have come in and said, they wanted the paved parking where they could pull the large boats through. They're having problems parallel parking boats. They've mentioned it several times. When you come in, you parallel park, and somebody goes in the wrong direction, then the rest of them go in the wrong direction, everybody gets a ticket.
I'm not
So
sure
the
the
parallel-
voters did that.
Excuse me?
I said, I'm not sure the voters are saying that.
I said boaters.
Oh, voters, okay.
People with the boat.
Yes, yes.
Sorry, I got hung up by the taking away because we haven't taken that away. They
We
haven't
took
had it.
away what we promised them, which would be the diagonal pull-through paid parking, the paved parking. We took that away. We had several people that came in and mentioned that the boaters, the people with boats would want that parking. The parallel parking to park a huge boat with 4 motors on it, to parallel park it, and then if somebody parallel parks in the wrong direction, am I correct, Jeremy? That if one person parks in the wrong direction, everybody follows suit and all those people get tickets? So you're telling them they got to parallel park these huge boats. One person parks in the wrong direction, the rest of them park, they're all getting tickets. So I just think we're doing the people with boats a huge disservice by raising these prices until we sort out the whole situation of the parking over there.
I've got to agree with Paige, and I think the part that maybe is not understood, that in December, we were on plan to have that parking done. And we were told that there was a group gonna change it, and they did. And now we don't have the boat parking that we had promised and had scheduled and had planned and had stormwatered and everything else. So now what we want to do is raise the price. I'm not for that.
Any more comments?
So I just, I'd be willing to amend my motion to the 175 per year.
I'm okay with that as a second.
Point of clarification. When we say year, we mean calendar year that ends at the end of December. It's not from the day that you purchase the permit. It's not 12 months from today if I buy my permit right now.
I thought, like, I don't know, because you started April 1st, I was thinking it was April 1st to March 31st.
On the calendar year.
Oh, so when I buy a pass right now, it's only good till December? And then,
Till the end of December, correct.
So yearly passes need to be available on the 1st of January then?
That is correct, and we made them available this year on the 1st of January. And people buy them as they come to the beach. For example, last year, we sold over 1,700 season permits for Holden Beach. This year, today, we have sold just under 300. People are still coming and still buying as they go.
okay, so I don't want to change any of that, so we'll make it the calendar year as it is now.
Thank you.
But I would make the change in the price April 1st.
Correct. Okay, thank you.
You okay, you get that, David?
Get that done?
5, 20, 80, 175, 1 April calendar year. Got it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Jim, I just want to make one clarification here. For folks that come and pay
Yeah.
hourly, weekly, or by the day, when they hit that season pass rate on the license plate, that's it for them, correct?
That is-
It's kind of like they automatically get a season pass by default. So if you come to the beach a lot, the max you will pay, even if you pay by the hour, by the day, will be the whatever a season pass costs. Is that correct?
We have that in our system for Holden Beach today. That
Okay.
if you buy for the day, the maximum you will pay is $20. If you keep coming on a regular basis per license plate, once you hit that 175, you're done for the year. And we call that a season pass upgrade as you go. And we have a lot of people that do that, or they may come 2 or 3 times and then just pay the rest, pay it up. because once you have that season pass, you don't have to do anything except go park and enjoy the beach. You don't have to check in, you don't have to register your car every time, you're done, as long as you use that car.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I had a question. I know when we first started paid parking and we reduced our rate, we had to pay the transaction fees associated with that. And
That's
now
correct.
we're raising our rate back, so will this have an impact on transaction fees we have to pay?
Yes, it will have an impact on the transaction fee, your portion, the town's portion. I need to go back and look at exactly what that is. It will come down off of the 49 cents per transaction. Right now, where I'm at, it's probably going to land about 30 cents per transaction. We may be able to lower it a little bit more. But I have to go back and look at the credit card processing fees as they stand today.
Okay, it was my understanding, we started at 5 and then I mean, this was 2 years ago, I guess, and there was no transaction fee, and then we went to 3.
If we started at 5, then at that point in time, the credit card transaction fees were a lot lower than they are today.
Okay,
They've gone up rather dramatically in the last year and a half.
okay, and you'll work with
I
David?
will work with Mr. Hewitt, and I will, let him know what we can bring that down to, but it will definitely come down.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Clerk, what motion do you have on the floor right now?
To amend the contract to charge the rates of $5 per hour, keep 20 per day, 80 per week, season pass to $175. The new rate starting April 1st, but the charge is effective through calendar year.
Is that the motion you intended?
I believe so, yes. Thank you, Heather.
Any more discussion? You ready to vote?
Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
3-2, Madam Clerk. In favor.
Now, the next one is for parking during festivals at the pier, and so how does that work for you? Do they just tell you, don't come and enforce it?
Today, we've got, the whole town is set up as one big zone. So when there is a festival, Christie lets myself and the local town manager know of the festival, and we have two choices. One, we either just turn it off and don't let anybody pay throughout the entire town, or we leave it on and don't enforce in a certain area. That tends to be the most popular option, because then people at the other ends keep paying because they expect to pay. But if there's a festival around the bridge area, in the Block Q area, et cetera, we just don't enforce that. That is the most common piece that we do. I know that we've worked with Mr. Hewitt in the past and said, hey, especially in the fall concert or the fall festival, that right at the end of paid parking period, right at the last weekend of October, we just turn it off and just say, go. So that is completely adaptable based on whatever the town decides you want to do. And we can adjust that at real time. That's not a contract requirement.
Okay, so I want to make a motion to enforce parking at the pier and the East End during festivals, which is not exactly what you said. You said, don't enforce it near the festival, but.
Don't enforce it where the festival is at, which is
Yeah.
by the bridge. But if you want to enforce it everywhere else, we can do that.
I second it.
What part of the East End? Because part of the,
You won't please speak closer to your microphone during the vote here.
when you say East End, part of the festival's in the East End, what areas are you?
Okay, so maybe I should do it the way that you said it and make the motion to not enforce parking for the festival in the festival area. And I'll leave that up to David to determine what that exactly is.
Chief, do you have any comments about that before we go in? Do you need a definition of area?
Let me try not to stick my foot in my mouth here. So the area is going to vary for
every festival and what time of the day it is. You know, the spring festivals are a little smaller than the fall festivals. Fall festivals are bigger, and during the middle of the day on Saturday, literally seen cars parked as far as Boyd Street, Roger Street maybe, but walking from that far. So the festival area could extend much larger, and then, you know, in the spring festival, it may not be much past Rothschild here and the other direction, the east, in the east direction. So it would be, to even try to define that would be almost impossible. That's the best answer I got, which I know is not an answer at all.
Wouldn't that be confusing for people that come to visit the beach that might be going maybe to the pier and think that because there's free parking up by the festival, that the whole island would be free? Wouldn't it be confusing?
I don't know if it would be or not. I don't know. If you're parking here, I don't know. To be honest, I don't know how we've done our advertisement to say that, hey, it's free parking here, or if it's just been word of mouth.
The 2 years we've had the parking, if I remember correctly, we just didn't have paid parking, so there was no confusion as to you didn't have to pay to park anywhere on the island. So now if we're going to start designating spots, I'm concerned it's going to be more people yelling at them and yelling at y'all, because they're going to say, well, how did I know I couldn't park there? So how are we going to advertise what's free and what's not free, I guess?
Christy, how do you do that now when you send out the festival? Do you talk about parking in the advertisements?
Heather sends those out, and the only thing we communicate is what the merchants send to us, so we don't really talk about parking, because I think that Commissioner Dyer is correct. I think the past 2 years that it hasn't occurred during festivals, unless it happened the very first year, and I'm not remembering. When we had, one year I think we had a race that fell during that time, and since that's a much smaller event, it worked the way that Mr. Varner was saying, that we just didn't enforce in that area, but it wasn't something so widespread. So I don't think we have a precedent for this, is my answer for you.
Mr. Parker.
Thank you. Jim, on a hot day when the island's packed like on a festival, how much money does the town take in for parking? Is it like 6, 8, 10 grand? Something like that. Is that a...
On a very busy day, you're talking closer to 30,000.
Yikes. Okay.
You're talking, if you look at 500 spaces times $20, you're getting up there.
500 times 20, and that more like 10 grand?
10,000. That would be
Okay.
10,000.
All right.
I apologize.
No, I'm just going to
I'm just
contradict.
trying to work my way back through the math. It'd be closer
I
to
got you.
10,000
I got you.
a day.
And I'm going to shoot myself in the foot here, because you could start talking about people with permanent passes or yearly passes. And I just talked about the town having potential revenue issues, but personally, I think on the festival days, it could be a goodwill day for everybody and just make it free parking. However, it needs to be enforced in the designated spaces only, because I've had some people contact me and say, you know, people park everywhere on festival day. So your guys wouldn't be out there, I don't know if you guys would be out there writing tickets for people who were parked elsewhere, but just my take on it. I mean, you know, I'd prefer to see.
We know, working with Chief Dixon's team, that on festival day, people just park everywhere.
Right.
And we have been told in the past, just let it go because it's a festival day. And so that would be a major change, and if you wanted us to help the police department with the, no parking areas that people are offended by, parking in somebody's front yard, in the right of way, wherever.
Yeah.
That would be a major change.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my position is, yes, festival weekends are a zoo, and parking's wild, and I don't think we should exacerbate the situation by saying free parking for everybody. That'll bring people from off island that aren't going to the festival to the beach just for free parking. So, in my opinion, the pier, and if you go on McCrae Street on down, they're going to the beach. They're not here for the festival, parking that far away. So that's my inclination, is charge for those so that we can at least keep some of the crowds down on the weekend versus a free-for-all by saying, everybody come, even if you're not going to the festival, you get free parking, you can go to the beach. So that's why I'm in favor of it.
Well,
Yes, ma'am.
I think we should support the Merchants Association they put these festivals on. They also give back to the community. They bought cameras for the officers. They give back to the Holden Beach community. I think the Merchants Association does this festivals twice a year, and I think we need to make it as easy as possible for people to have a good turnout for the festival. I think nitpicking 2 days out of the year to separate, oh, you can park here for free, you can park, I think that's silly, and I think we should support the Merchants Association for the wonderful festivals they put on twice a year, and just let it go for 2 days.
I'm sorry if maybe I was misunderstood. I fully support free parking for the festival in the area of the festival to support the Merchants Association. My point is, I don't think people that park at the pier are walking from there to go to the festival, or if they're parking
Yes,
at the
they
end.
are. Yes, they are.
Or they'll
Well, they
bring
can-
the family and then one of them are out of
But there's nothing stopping somebody from parking by the festival and going to the beach either, so it's,
Who cares if they go to the beach the day of the festival? So you're saying if you come to the festival, you can come to the island for free, but if you're going to go on the free beach, you have to pay.
Any more discussion?
So why don't we just say we don't want people on the beach? Why don't we just say that? We don't want the public across the bridge to come across the bridge and go on the beach. Let's just say that.
Any more discussion about the subject matter?
no.
You ready to vote?
Yes.
Oh, Jeremy has something to say.
Yeah, but it's more of a question than a comment yet. Just because I'm trying to keep up with it too. As far as the enforcement side of it, there was mention of enforcing it inside of the the parking regulations. And am I understanding that right? You don't want the kind of free-for-all that we've been allowing, because that changes the dynamic dramatically.
Well, that's not part of this motion, but we can discuss that another time, I
Okay.
guess. But that is what Rick said, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, it definitely needs to be discussed at some point,
Yeah.
so that's,
Right, and we should have that discussion. I don't know that we can take an action on it.
okay.
But that's what people have said, and what they've contacted me with is, it's a free-for-all. And I don't know that whether or not we charge for parking or not has anything to do with what the parking regulations say we should do. So I would say, can we table that for another time to talk about? I
Yes.
understand it becomes a nightmare for you guys.
Yes, that'll be fine. We will have that discussion.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that was not getting voted on tonight before we had that discussion.
I got
Perfect. Yes, sir.
I got to follow on to that. And I'm just not familiar enough with the ordinance. I know that the table that I looked at was, spaces in places kind of thing. There's nothing in the ordinance that describes start-stop dates like that we're talking about changing here, is there? It's just...
We're not talking about the ordinance at all. We're just talking about paid parking.
Well, I know, but what you're talking about, I'm just asking the question that, to make sure that there's nothing in the ordinance that you guys are talking about in the contract is going to adversely impact that ordinance. I'm just mentioning that. I don't know.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. There is a lot in the ordinance that has April 1st and the last day of November in it. In order for this to be done properly, the ordinance would need to be addressed, and it's not in the table, so it would have the full ordinance amendment requirements.
All right. Any further discussion?
I didn't really understand that. So does my motion mean that we would have to change the ordinance to implement the?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yes,
And we
that
need
is
to-
correct.
But it starts April 1st.
April 1st,
So I don't think it does affect the ordinance that says we start April 1st.
That part, I think you guys could probably start April 1st, but we'd have to get the ordinance in play before October when it typically ends. We do need to amend the ordinance, but we can bring that back to you at a subsequent meeting. So I think you can move forward because we were doing April 1st anyways, but we would have to change it before you get any further. So I would say next month, it would have to be on the board meeting to get that straight.
So the first two motions were okay, right? That didn't have anything to do with the ordinance?
It is going to affect it, but you're in part of it. So I think because you're not changing the beginning date, we don't have prices in the ordinance, but we do have dates in the ordinance. So we'll have to bring back the date part of it.
Got it.
But it was April 1st, so in my opinion, unless Sydney thinks I'm wrong, we were going to start April 1st anyways. So as long as we get it straightened out before we continue on past the non-paid part.
You would need the ordinance amended prior to November,
Oh,
whatever, the
prior to
last,
November,
November
okay.
1st.
So,
Thank you.
quick point of order on David's comment earlier. What we're now talking about is two different amendments to the contract. One is to change the prices that we can do now.
Yeah.
The second one to go year-round, we will have to do later once the ordinances have been updated.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, does everybody know where we are?
Sure.
Are you ready to vote?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
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 That was a no.
Right, this is for the festival parking, correct?
Correct.
Yes,
So-
I'm a no on that.
So the motion fails, 3-2.
Okay.
Okay, the last one's mine. I do support reduced cost seasonal permits for full-time residents. I do understand that we need to be real careful about this so that it doesn't get exploited. So I would like to have a $20 charge so that it's not extraneous people just getting one for free, and limit it to one per household only for vehicles that are registered on the island. I did have Margaret run the numbers. There's 1,400 vehicles registered on the island. Assume a lot of those are 2 vehicles per household, so, you know, maybe we're talking at 600 possible if every single person got it. But I think the people that live here full-time have vehicles here. The vehicles are taxed here. We pay the tax dollars that support the area. We should provide full-time residents with seasonal passes. So I move that we revise the ordinance to implement full-time seasonal passes for residents at $20.
No, not the ordinance.
I mean, the contract,
Thank you.
amend the contract, at $20 per year for one car per household, and only for cars that are registered here on the island.
I'll second.
Wait. So you're saying one seasonal permit per full-time resident or per property owner?
Per household. So if we got 2 cars at our house, we can get a permit for one of them.
But you said it's got to be registered to the house on the island.
Right, so
So my neighbor lives in Raleigh and they own property. How are they going to have a free parking permit?
they won't. This is,
And it's not free, it's $20.
it's $20.
Okay, excuse me, $20. So how would you enforce that?
They would have to take the registration, the same as they get pulled over by the police, they ask for the registration. The registration that's in your car has your license plate number and the address that that car is registered in. If it's registered
In
in the
Brunswick
town.
County.
No, in
Holden
Holden Beach Town, on the island, then they get a free pass.
Not free.
Not a $20 pass. I'm sorry, go ahead, let me.
That's discrimination.
That's discrimination.
Could you guys please table this specific one until at least next meeting? There's way too much research that needs to be done. If
Can
it's
you
Pell
hear
Grant
back there?
land.
Yes, we can.
I can table it.
Speak
Could you
right
table it?
into the
There's a lot
microphone.
of research that needs to be done before, because it's Pell Grant land, and it could be an issue singling out those spaces based on registration.
I'll table it.
Yeah.
You don't need to tape. Can you just withdraw?
I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay.
Yeah, one other comment. In addition to that research, we would need to understand how we would get that list of authorized license plates.
Right. Just,
So there's some.
you do this at other islands, is that correct?
We do this, but the towns provide us with a list of.
They do the validation.
They do the validation. It's usually something like a water bill or an owner parcel ID or something that we can identify a resident or an owner that has rights for whatever parking permits they decide on.
We have that list.
This is a little different. So this one gets down to vehicles that are registered, so that's where we would have to work with. You know,
Oh, please
clerk,
don't put us in the
police.
business of checking registrations.
No, that's.
Please don't do
Yeah,
that.
that's what I want to avoid, because our system is automated.
And it can't be disclosed anyway.
Right. Our system is automated, and we need a different way of tracking that so that we can automate that for the customers. So some research needs to go into that so that we can look at alternatives.
Okay.
Jim, can I just, when we discussed this last year, wasn't part of the problem was that there would be more free, $20 passes given than we have inventory for parking, isn't that correct?
That's true, but most people that we see that are residents in other islands, very few of them actually use the parking spaces on a daily basis.
I use.
Parking's free after 5 o'clock.
And it's free after 5 anyway, so some people use it all the time.
What you talking about, the resident pass?
Residents. I could.
I mean, I buy a pass, I use it almost every day in the summer.
And people do that. I'll give you an Oak Island example.
I mean, personally, I don't mind paying my fee because then I know my parking spot's available. But if you're gonna give that $20 pass, it still excuse me?
How are you guaranteed a spot? Why do you?
I didn't say guarantee, but just by me paying my yearly pass, it's easier for me to get a parking space. If you give away 1,000 $20 passes, it's gonna be less inventory available. I'd rather pay my what is it, $175 now? I'd rather pay that a year so it's easier for me to be able to park and go to the beach at my access than to worry about I'm gonna have to fight now over $20. And it's still gonna make it easy for a property owner to sell the pass. If you sell a pass for $100, you're only out $20. Well, that's still questioning whether you can do that or not.
I don't think.
I think that's a lot of work for the staff and the police department.
It was withdrawn. We can move on,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
Okay, so are we finished with number 11?
Would we?
Yes, we are.
I'd like a second help, and I just want to verify what we've done there, those three things that we're looking at. And they are changing the fee structure, changing the time frame year-round, and the Pier East End Festival.
That failed.
That failed. Got it, okay.
Chief?
So, police report this month. Well, last month technically, because it's February's numbers. Pretty typical for what we're seeing this time of year. Nothing in there really alarming for us or anything to really bring out and point to your attention. But if you have questions or comments, I will. If you get back to the ordinance violation section, got through that. There was 31 in February, which I thought was a little high. So we did a little research, and I have to admit a little fault that the police department had, and we've corrected our error with pretty much everybody. We think we've caught up with everybody. We're still getting a few complaints, but the ordinance says that the side street parking in front of your residence is, again, from October 31st to April 1st, when paid parking starts. You can park in front of your residence on side streets. in our new officers training and everything that we're going through, one of them misinterpreted that ordinance and was writing people directly in a legal parking space. So through further training, we've corrected that. So the 31 violation seems a little high, but that was an error on our part. So that's what that was. And we do apologize if you were one of those 31. We apologize to you, and we have tried to reach out and make contact and correct our errors. So, but that's what I have in the police report. And like I said, if you have questions, comments, concerns, I will definitely try to answer them for you.
Anybody have questions? If not, thank you for your service.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Absolutely. I think I get to stay here for
And
round 2.
staff. Chief, you're still up there, I
Yes,
guess.
sir. I get another round here.
Yeah. you
Keep
did
this one
such a
short too,
good job
hopefully.
on the first one.
So, we recently acquired the 2 Humvees that everyone's familiar with. And part of that, we actually have to go through a program compliance review, PCR. It's basically an audit. They come down here and make sure we're following the rules, blah, blah, blah. And what they brought to our attention was we did not actually have in writing, and part of the contract says that there has to be a written agreement for participation. So what you have in front of you is a proposed resolution, and I can read the entire thing, or you've probably read it beforehand, but basically it allows us to participate, and we'll participate with the rules according to the 1033 program, which is their federal code, and then the Executive Order 14074, which is part of the other rules and requirements. And basically it says that we will participate in the program and follow all the rules and regulations. And if we have that in writing and approval from the board, then that would be the final piece of the puzzle for us to be in compliance with the compliance review we had.
Minor point, but there's a spelling error in the title of the resolution, enforcement.
There certainly is. Thank you.
I had another question. So I understand this is the program that allows you to get free Humvees, but they're not free because we've got to pay to demilitarize them. That expense is managed through the budget process, just so that, you know, we're not getting all this free stuff and then having to get an unexpected charge because of the money it's going to cost to demilitarize it. I'm just trying to understand the fees associated with versus just being in the program, being able to, I don't know, is this shopping or whatever we do?
Correct. So any of the equipment we get from the program, no matter what it is the responsibility of the town to maintain that equipment, whether it be Humvees, helicopters, whatever. So, but if, I'm not trying to get a helicopter, I'm trying to use it as an example. If I was going to...
Kind of sounded cool to me.
Yeah. If I said, hey, Holden Beach Police Department needs a helicopter, you know, but it's going to cost us $100,000 a year to maintain this thing, we would definitely have to come to the board to get that approval. So it's not something we would just go out and get, and you come by one day and we got a helicopter sitting out here. And
Well, I guess that's the question. I mean, do you know what you're getting into, or does it show up and like, oh my God, now I got to spend all this money to actually use it?
We do. So we have the opportunity to actually go look at the equipment before we pick it up. They have reports on them that tell us the condition. Of course, reports and pictures are one thing. It's, you know, better to go see it in person if they say, hey, equipment's running, it's in good shape. You know, and we go there and the doors are hanging off of it. It won't even start. And we're like, well, you know, we're going to have to spend 20 grand to get this thing running. We're just going to pass on it and move on to the next one.
And they tell you that, you know, this has got to be repainted and
Yes, they don't give you the actual specific, they don't say it has to be painted to these specifications, just that it has to be demilitarized. And part of that, you know, is basically the example they give you is if you mark it as this is a town of Holden Beach, you know, police vehicle, then it's very obvious that it's not a military, you know, National Guard over here, Marine operations operating on the beach.
Chief, so basically you're the gatekeeper on what equipment you request.
Yes, sir.
And if you do get a helicopter and you need to get it demilitarized, and we say, yeah, we're not giving you 100 grand, then you just send it back, basically.
Correct. That's
so
it.
Yeah. So
Yes. We could ask for, you know, if they got an aircraft carrier, say, hey, we want that here on the beach, but if, you know, if we can't use it, then they're going to take it back from us. Correct.
Any more questions, comments? All right, thank you, sir.
Do we need to make do we need to make a motion to pass the resolution?
Well,
I move we pass resolution 24-03.
Second.
all right, motion made and second, discussion.
With a spelling correction.
Had it right, good
With a
bit.
spelling correction.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
Thank you.
Thanks again. How about that? Mr. Evans, building inspector.
Really tired. Tired. Seems like I've been here a long time. I believe, I'll have to go back and go a little bit further than I went, but I do believe that the building inspections department had the busiest month it's ever had. I won't run, I'll just run through the important numbers. The active new home permits was 46. The other active permits that are open are 281. Permits issued over 30,000 was 44. Permits issued over 100,000 were 3. Permits issued waiting pickup was 17. The total permits were 344. Permits now in review are 5. CAMA issued were 2. And zoning issued were 9. Permits serviced by the inspections department was 104. And the total inspections done were just 13 shy of 500. We're really busy. And I think we cut ourselves short because some of those inspections, most other departments would count as 2, and we count them as 1. But we're working on breaking them apart. Our total revenue that we actually put in the system to collect was $125,862, and we collected $113,519. We've been really busy over there. And among all those things that we have, and the constant traveling up and down the beach, imagine how many inspections we could do if we had a helicopter.
You have a drone.
You can borrow Jeremy's.
So anyway, but I know this is improper, and I'm going to get scolded. But we are real busy, and I'm asking you to make us busy. And what I'm asking is that you allow us to revisit ordinance 94.03, which is our dune ordinance that talks about deck extensions, deck widths out beyond the town's frontal dune. The ordinance currently is sitting in a regulatory rules section, and it stifles the public from having the ability of a real appeals process when we have to enforce those rules. I would like for you to ask us, staff, to carry it to the planning board and find a place to put it in land usage. Since I've been here, now, I don't know how to properly say this other than the same person that's responsible in my mind for the pavilion was also responsible for enforcing a portion of this ordinance that was never enforced, and now people become victims of the system when they engage in an activity that is legal and then turns into a situation where they have to abide by a regulatory rule, which then turns out to be a loss of their property. Because we have an ordinance that does not allow them to get a variance or to even ask for a change that may be both beneficial to them or save their property. Good examples I've had, I think two, one of them sitting right here, but we've had 2 cases in the last month. We've had hundreds of these since I've been here where property owners go out either thinking that they can do something or have someone do work. They then realize they've got to a point where they need to come get a permit. We go out, and now they are told they have to tear it down because of this ordinance. And it puts the staff in a bad place because now they're in a regulatory rule. It's sort of like getting a speeding ticket. You know, you're just not getting out of it. So I'm asking you, for staff's opinion, that please allow us to take this to the planning board and see if we can move this section into the regulatory section of the land use, so it can be taken to a quasi-judiciary board when they may have a case for hardship, and even amend it some. There's a 2003 deadline that was never followed, and so that's part of the problem.
Can we do this by consensus, Tim, or Heather? Can we do it by consensus? Just say, let the staff look at it.
I think that what Tim's asking you for is to charge the planning board with a review of that ordinance initiated by the staff.
Yeah.
Task planning and zoning.
Could you say what that ordinance was?
Just- 9403.
94.03, it's in the 94.
Can you dumb it down just a little bit and kind of summarize?
Well, basically, that ordinance says that if you, the part that's the problem is that you can't have any walkway past the town's designated funnel dune. If you're down here, it's not a big problem. Another portion of that, and I'm going to get into why it's a problem, but another portion of that is it says if you've got anything past the town's funnel dune, then it can't be more than 4 feet wide. And so it was implemented sometime in the past, in late 99, 2000, somewhere. And it basically said if you've got anything past the town's designated funnel dune, it can't be there, or you can't have it there. Or if you've got something that's more than 4 feet wide, you've got to take it down. Well, I'm assuming that when that ordinance was passed, there was a lot of it, especially starting about the 500 block and extending all the way to the west end. There was a lot of those walkways that would have been non-compliant, made non-compliant by that ordinance. And I'm assuming that the person who's responsible for regulating that chose to act upon it some way differently than I would have. I would have sent letters to everybody and told them, you know what I mean, and there'd probably been some action at that point. But they didn't. When I got here in 2010, we realized that although they were bringing them back when they got damaged, there was some of these things were still out there. We had when I got here, David will remember, there was at least 12 by 12 with 8-inch round piles on the public trust land. That was one of these things. That wasn't a problem. We condemned it and got rid of it. But anytime somebody has one of these situations, they can have, I think this gentleman is cutting his dune in half because he's having to stop at the toe of his frontal dune. So the next gentleman, that's right there, the next gentleman, because of that ordinance, the next gentleman may come in here and he may be trying to repair a section from his house out to the toe of the frontal dune, but he's got a 4-foot wide section there. You know what I mean? It's been maintained for most of the part, but he needs to get a building permit. 168-1110 says I can't issue him that building permit because he has a town violation. Well, he can't get a variance. It's in the regulatory section. Okay. So do you see the dilemma? It puts the staff at odds with citizens and gives the citizens no out, except for the one to strangle me. So,
Let's not do that.
yeah, so we need to, it was actually discussed one time before, and I don't know why it didn't go through the.
Is this the same one? Because I do remember the discussion with like 300 feet past.
This is the one where we got the exception for the 300 feet.
Okay.
If you had more than 300 feet from the toe of the town's frontal dune to the last line of natural stable vegetation, then there was an exception that let you take the walkway all the way out. But you still couldn't keep the 4-foot section.
And that was only in a certain part of the beach.
Well, it would only be relevant somewhere around the 10,000 block is where it starts getting close.
Okay.
I think his is further, doesn't meet that criteria, but he might be at 265. But I think that, and that's what we did, that ordinance was primarily written to get across, if you remember correctly, to get across the swash area or the water on the west end, because they were all having to walk in the same dry path. And so there was a reason for that, but that actually exposed all the other problems as they come back. So that's an issue. And then the other thing is that you need to have direct staff to go back and look at the light ordinance. We have a definition issue with the light ordinance. We can't make it hard for us to enforce it. as it goes to ornamental lighting.
And that would go to planning and zoning too?
Yeah, I would send it, it's a regulatory rule, but I would send it to them so they can give it a good review. That's what I would do. That gives us some time to look at it. I think that what happened was that we somehow messed up the definition. I don't know if it got lost in the translation or how messed it up, but it's messed up.
So you're asking to send both of those to the committee?
Yeah, send it to the planning board.
Do you need it
Have staff
spelled
take
out?
the planning board.
You got it? Okay.
You want to make that motion?
Are we going to
Anybody?
motion or just a consensus to send it?
Either one's fine.
I would say.
Anybody disagree with it?
No?
Then I think we can do it by
Madam
consensus.
Clerk, it's by consensus of the board to send both of these as suggested by the building inspector.
Tim, thanks for your hard work.
Thanks, sir.
Okay. All right, Money Man. Mr. McRaney.
I know you guys asked for this as just kind of a supplementary thing for the packet, but since it's the first go at it, I wanted to give you a chance to give me some feedback, any changes you want made, any questions you got.
I think it's good. This graphical's much better. My only suggestion would be if we could do fiscal year instead of calendar year, because that's really what we care about.
Yeah, so the reason it's calendar year is because since we just switched over to this new software, it only goes back 2 years, so I would have to go back to the old software to pull the beginning of last fiscal year. So going forward, I could pull that. It's going to be a lot more work, or just going forward when we have 2 full fiscal years in the new software, I can change it to that.
Good, thank you, Daniel.
Yeah.
It's good to have the graphical.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. It's really interesting in the summer.
Yeah.
And you see them everywhere.
We done with that?
Yes, sir.
Turn the page, wheel number 16. Ms. Ferguson?
Good evening. Last year, the board instructed the staff in both a pre-application process and a final application process to submit a grant for Block Q for the bathrooms and associated parking to go with those. The total for the grant is $560,000, of which the town's obligation will be $140,000 for the restroom facility, associated parking for the restroom only, site prep, and landscaping. There is a contractual obligation for wherever that happens on the site, which has been recommended by the architect, that we maintain those facilities for 25 years. If you guys choose to accept this contract with the state, you would need to authorize the town manager to execute the paperwork and also pass the associated budget amendment. The only additional piece of information for clarification that David said we would find out for you from yesterday's budget meeting is we had an additional discussion with the architect today regarding stormwater. So stormwater has to be for the entire site. You can't just do stormwater for the part where the bathroom would be. So basically your $300,000 that was in this year's budget is going to fall to fund balance because the site's not having any work done on it. And you would reappropriate that next year to go along with the project. So that's where the stormwater stands. You can't just do stormwater on the part where the bathrooms would go. That's not able to happen.
Okay, help me understand that, please. So we have to do stormwater for the whole site before we can move ahead on the bathrooms?
Yes.
And we've got to have a plan for the whole site to do stormwater for the whole site.
Well, you have an approved stormwater plan now.
Based,
You wouldn't have to do paving or any of the other associated parts of it, but you have to run the pipes and do the stormwater that you plan to do for the entire site. You just can't do the bathroom site. David, if you want to chime in with anything else you heard.
You got it.
Well, that's a problem because we might not need any pipes at all. except for the bathroom.
Well, the stormwater plan was developed at max, the worst capacity for, so that's what the stormwater plan was designed for. That's what that current site plan
It's
is.
$200,000, is that right?
300,000.
300,000?
Yeah, he increased his price estimate today to 275 is where he's to. So basically, your 300,000 that you had in this year, that was the estimate, will roll to fund balance, and you would need to appropriate that next year as part of this project.
Can that stormwater plan change between now and then? I know it has to get approved.
Yes, and the rec
Huh?
board has looked, I mean, you would have to have a permit modification if anything substantial changes on the plan, but the rec board has looked at making changes to the way some of the things were designed. Do you have anything else to add to that, David? You've been sitting in on those meetings as well.
Tim, you said something I didn't hear. You said yes, it could. Oh, sorry. There goes your helicopter. Easy come, easy go.
So I think the question is, right now, the plan has impervious surfaces, and the stormwater plan adopts those. If we were to go to pervious, then we'd need a whole nother stormwater plan.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. You're just overkilling on stormwater.
I still don't understand why you can't just do the one section that's for the bathrooms. I mean, because the way I'm looking at it is now, instead of 500, this bathroom is going to cost $960,000 for a bathroom, of which we're going to pay $440,000. Unless I'm missing something. That's a pretty fancy bathroom.
Well, the stormwater cost is for the entire site.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, what if we
But
didn't do anything with the rest of the site? There's no way you can parcel it out to just do it for the bathroom?
Nope.
So we,
Not without a permit modification and more refined items on the site plan for amenities.
I mean, I thought we were real clear to separate the part of the grant for those parcels so that we didn't commit the whole site.
Okay, but we're talking about
25 years.
we're talking about two different things here. The separation is that for CAMA, for the grant, for what you're committing to the state, you have 25 years that you have to maintain whatever you build, wherever you build it on that site, that are these items that are listed. Not anything additional you're considering building. The stormwater that you guys asked about in a budget meeting a couple weeks ago about just doing the stormwater for this component, the architect has clarified today when we called him based on the feedback from yesterday that you cannot just do stormwater for that part where the bathrooms will go.
so can we get a second opinion on that?
I mean, basically saying we can't just put bathrooms on the site without taking on the whole plan, the whole property.
That's pretty much it, yeah.
Is there a deadline on, can we punt on this until we, I mean, do we have
Well-
to accept it now, or what's the timing?
I will say that I would have to find out if there's a deadline that you have to accept it, but it sat in their legal since November, but they have hit us up and asked when it was coming back. Because they work through DocuSign now, and most places just allow the DocuSign and the whole grant document doesn't come back before the board. That's authorized through the manager. You guys have to see the document, so they've asked, and I've said that the board meeting is tonight. So, I mean, it would be an ask, and I can't give you a definitive deadline at this point.
I mean, I'm with Tracy, I have a real problem with that $800,000 bathroom. I mean, I want the bathroom, we need the bathroom, but that's crazy.
Christie, it seems to, I read that grant some time ago, and it seems to me there was a section in there was like you could acquire the grant now and build later. I don't know if that rings a bell to you or if I'm just dreaming.
We have an 18-month timeline to do what we said we'd do in the grant. Otherwise, you have to go back and appeal for an extension, which may or may not be granted.
So that would give us a certain amount of time to work out whatever we're going to do at Block Q, and if we had to go and modify and reapply for stormwater and stuff, is that a possible thing? because we're going to do something with Block Q, and we're trying to work that out. I don't want to miss the grant opportunity, but $900,000 for a bathroom is awful steep too. So I'm trying to understand.
I think, well, just for clarification, and I see where y'all are adding that together to get stormwater, but I think
Yeah.
if we take the 560 and add 300 to it, we get to 860.
Okay, all right. So the point is, and it's kind of to go, the 560 is really for the bathroom stuff. We still have to figure it out and do what the stormwater, whatever we're going to do on Block Q. And we have 18 months to work that out. Is that a
Well, we should be complete at the end of 18 months. So ideally, at 18 months, we're turning in everything. Just like, for example, I'll use another example. The DEQ, the same grant that we used down for the walkway at the pier. We're finishing up that work. We're going to turn in our invoices. We had 18 months to complete it. We hope to get that back this fiscal year. We should be turning in everything and done at the end of 18 months, not just starting. So I want to make sure you and I are talking about the same thing.
I think so, 18 months to complete.
Yep.
Okay. So let's say we just did bathrooms, didn't do a thing else with stormwater, and we'd have to change, or other than what, just for talking purposes, just what would be required for the hard surfaces at the bathroom. We could change the stormwater plan, which would likely change the cost of that. Am I
That's right.
on the right path here? So, I mean, and where I'm trying to get to is it'd be nice to accept the grant and still have some wiggle room to work through Block Q and its stormwater issue is kind of what I'm trying to get to.
What's wrong with the stormwater plan that we already have?
Well, did we pay 300,000 for it? I mean, is it done?
No.
I'm not
No.
understanding that.
That was the stormwater drainage plan that I had an issue with the 8,000 square feet of that property being donated pretty much to stormwater collection features, right? As a result of doing all the pavement and stuff. Is that correct?
I think your answer is yes. There was not, 300,000 was not for the plan. 300,000 was for the construction that the bids came in at 334 for this year, and the construction did not happen. So you still have 300,000 sitting in a line that says Block Q projects that was for stormwater.
So I guess, I'm confused, because was there stormwater work already done for Block Q?
No.
So those diagrams that showed the retention and the swales and all the stormwater stuff on the drawings?
Is what, if the bid had been awarded at 334, would have taken place.
So it would have included $300,000 for the stormwater plan and all the other stuff? Or you would have added that again?
You correct me if I'm wrong, David, but the plan was part of the architect's professional services. So he developed a plan with an engineer, and there's not a $300,000 cost for the plan. I don't have what his professional service fee was in front of me at the moment, but the $300,000 that we're talking about was to do the work, to complete the stormwater installation work for the entire site. And that has not occurred.
I understand that. I guess where I get hung up is when he describes the plan, he talks about 4-foot swales, he talks about a retention corner. How did that all come about? Wasn't that a stormwater plan that said this is what you need to have?
We have an approved stormwater. I said that, I think, at the last meeting.
Yeah.
Several meetings.
Stormwater plan that was presented to DEQ and was approved for the work that was on the plan on the surface. And I think that when it was put out for bid, it came back at a certain price for the land development there to prepare the site and to do some of the work, but the stormwater was included.
And that included the bathroom?
No.
The bathroom would not have been included. I think that would have been excluded. It would have been probably done, at a different bid.
Well, how could you do a
The
stormwater?
impervious surface area that the bathroom would drive was included in the stormwater permit. That requirement for the bathroom, the paving for the long boats, the paving around, the paving for the bathroom, all of that was included in that project scope.
Okay, so we have a plan that's approved. Why would we have to pay $300,000 for another plan? That's what
It's
I'm.
not
We're not
for a
talking about a
that's for
plan.
running the stormwater work.
It's for all the work to install everything that we need to handle any impervious area that would have been put on the site, not to put certain items that would have been impervious on the site. That, I think that the bathrooms were definitely excluded from the bid to prepare the site for the parking areas and the necessary drainage to handle the stormwater runoff in all those impervious areas. The calculations are there, including gravel, which the state considers to be impervious in some cases, which is around the outside, that most people mistook for paving. If you'll remember correctly, you even have to take in, I don't know if I had that conversation with you or somebody else, but the permit itself actually has a factor in it that's larger than what we were going to be handling there, because you also have to take in consideration to what it might affect around the site. So it was a stormwater plan to make sure that we protected the areas around it and the protected areas within it, and to handle the stormwater runoff from any impervious areas that we may put on there. Now, if the site development required that stuff to be typically at what we call land level, it would probably be included with your contract, which would have been $300,000 worth of work to get that on site, to prepare the site and prepare it for any structure you may be putting on. So that's what that $300,000 is for.
Right, got it.
The stormwater plan, I think, is paid for.
The design work is paid for, the construction is not, and that's where the 300,000
So
is.
the $300,000 is to do the actual construction of what the original plan was, which included paving and all that other stuff.
Yeah, right. It would have taken care of any construction, okay, that would have been on the site, that would have been impervious or considered something that needed to be, have stormwater handled on it. It would not have taken into consideration any type of structure that would have been elevated out of the dirt or out of the ground. But it would have took into consideration the impervious area that would have to be handled.
Okay, so we rejected the plan to pave all of Block Q, which means we rejected needing all the swells and the this, that, and the other thing. So why would it still cost $300,000 for just the bathroom?
Because you have to do the whole site.
Well, I'm not accepting that, because I don't
So-
necessarily, we don't know what we want to do with the rest of the site.
Well, unless you leave it empty, you're gonna
Yeah,
have to have a.
that may be an option.
And not put ADA restrooms there?
No,
No, we're just trying
I'm
to-
just saying just
So,
the
but
restrooms.
I thought we had talked about moving the pavilion. We just said tonight we might move the pavilion.
That's what I'm saying, we don't know what we're going to do there, so I don't
So you're gonna
necessarily-
turn down a grant that gives you 75% paid ADA
I'm not
compliant.
saying I'm
Can I
gonna-
finish, please? Sure. Thank you. So you're gonna turn down a grant that pays 75% of some bathrooms on the off chance you're not gonna put anything on that lot. When it's gonna come back to kick you in the butt, when we're gonna have to pay the full price to put the same bathrooms you're gonna turn down tonight. Because I can tell you right now, if you don't put those ADA compliant bathrooms there, if you put the pavilion there, you gotta have those bathrooms there. You can't use the bathrooms under the bridge for a pavilion. I'm finished.
You're gonna have to have, I've said this before too, you're gonna have to be real careful about anything that you do new, expecting to use the bathrooms that we have in place. They're gonna be hard to get into compliance, and the travel distance for access is almost too far.
I understand all that. What I don't understand is if we just want to go ahead now and accept this grant and do the bathrooms, why is it $860,000? That's the part I'm stuck on, because it seems like we've done the stormwater for the whole site already. We've got those drawings. We just want to move ahead with the bathrooms.
And the architect is saying you cannot just do stormwater for the part that the bathrooms would sit on. You have to do it for the whole site. That is what we're
We're
told today.
throwing out all the stormwater work we've done
I
already.
think we need an
No
architect.
stormwater work.
There's no
Who came
stormwater
up
work.
with the drawings that show where all the retention is?
That's
That
the
was a
architect.
product of the architect. Phil Norris was the engineer on it.
I think
so
they're saying we have to actually do it all for the 300,000.
So, hang on a second.
Is that right?
So
Yeah, and I don't accept that.
if we accept the grant and we have a certain stormwater plan here, we have to complete the construction, including some type of stormwater, in 18 months. If we alter what the current site plan calls as a whole, let's say we don't pave anything, we would have to possibly change the stormwater plan, or if we want to go do something that gets our 8,000 square feet back, we got 18 months to get all that done and get it completed if we accept that grant tonight. But the stormwater plan, if based on what Parks and Rec comes up with, all that kind of stuff, if it needs to be redone, then that is a possibility, but we got to have this, if we accept that grant, we got to be done with the stormwater in the bathrooms in 18 months, unless we ask for an extension, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we don't necessarily, say you just put the bathrooms in, you don't do a thing to block Q, we need to get the stormwater redone for just the runoff from the hard surfaces at the bathroom that may be smaller, which should cost substantially less than $300,000.
You would think, but she's trying to say that the architect said you can't do that.
He said the stormwater has to address the whole site plan, and we stopped the approved site plan for all the paving and stuff, and we sent it to Parks and Rec. Parks and Rec is going to come up with something, or pervious pavement, or whatever that's going to be or not, which may allow us to change that stormwater plan. But whatever we're going to do, even if we go back to the original plan, if we accept that grant, we got 18 months to figure it out and have it done. Right? Does that make sense?
But we also don't have to accept the grant tonight. We can go back and revisit this whole thing and see if we can possibly get another stormwater plan that only includes the bathroom. And if that architect won't give it to you, then maybe you can get it from another one.
Well, you can modify your stormwater plan.
Right.
You can modify your stormwater plan.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But
That doesn't, so it just includes the bathroom?
yeah, yes, you can do that. You can do that.
How much
Right.
is that going to cost?
I have, it's going to cost. It's probably cost you the same thing that it did for the original plan, but I don't know.
That's for the design work, not
That's
the
design work.
construction,
Yes, sir.
okay? There's a big difference between those two.
You're right.
Right, the design work. I'd rather pay 20,000 for the design work than 300,000 for stuff we don't necessarily need.
Oh,
Just, and I understand that, just be aware that hypothetically, if you go through, amend the stormwater permit to reflect just the stormwater requirements for the bathroom up there, that should the site have further development, you're going to run the risk of having to dig right back through what you put in whenever that's done. I mean, that's a risk. Because right now, you don't know where stuff's going to go.
I'm not sure what's wrong with the stormwater plan we already have.
Because it reflects the plan that we rejected with all the paving on Block
But
Q.
we don't have to do that paving. We're just accepting the stormwater plan.
But no, the stormwater plan is $300,000. If we're not going to pave it, we don't need to do that much extensive stormwater.
folks, here's what we need to do. We need to finish getting through what Parks and Rec wants to do. If we're going to plop a pavilion there or whatever, then we need to reevaluate what stormwater's required, because we don't want to build a massive stormwater system if we don't have that hard surface. So yeah, we're going to spend some money on engineering to do that. I'd like to see us get the grant. It's going to say we got to step it up to figure out what we're going to do, and then look at reevaluating that stormwater. That's what I'm seeing we got going on.
Yeah, I'm just not in favor of an $860,000 bathroom, which is what.
Well,
We're not
it
paying
was-
$186,000.
It was,
That's what I'm
Tom,
hearing.
it was going to be 860,000 with the old plan, but that also included the boat parking and stuff. So if the stormwater, what
We're
we're
paying
call-
for $140,000 for the bathrooms.
Right. Right. So.
So where are you
what-
getting 800,000 for bathrooms?
Because of
That's
the
what it really
560
costs.
plus 300 in stormwater.
But we're
what I heard.
accepting the grant for
But we're
$560,000.
committed, we can't build it without a stormwater plan, so we're committed for the 300 then.
We're committed to having a stormwater plan that can get changed. And the point is that if you don't pave anything except what you got at the bathroom site, you have your stormwater plan revisited. The stormwater features you have to build may be much smaller and less expensive. Dave, does that sound right?
It sounds correct to me,
And
yes, sir.
if we accept the grant, the clock starts ticking, and we got 18 months to get it done.
I think we should do it before we accept this grant and pay for, our part is $440,000 for a bathroom.
No, I don't think we'll get there. What's the time limit, or when do we need to have a decision on this grant?
Well, as I was saying, they didn't give me a limit, but they have asked once already this month why they don't have it back. And so I answered back that it had to take action at your board meeting, so they're
Yeah.
patiently waiting for a return. To answer your question thoroughly, if you don't take action tonight, I'd have to ask that question tomorrow, and then I don't think you would have until April. You would probably have to call a special meeting when it fit your schedule.
I'd rather do that. Find out when we really need to make a decision and call a special meeting.
So will this not jeopardize us getting further grants?
Special meetings anyway.
So what state is this going to jeopardize us getting further grants? She has put hours and hours and hours into this grant. I don't understand why we can't accept this grant. They're paying $560,000 for a bathroom, and we're paying $140,000. If we don't build these bathrooms with this grant, I'm telling you, you're going to be building these bathrooms in 3 or 4 years, and it's going to cost you twice as much as that. So you're turning down free money, and if you start screwing with these grants, how many more grants are they going to give us?
This from the person who's
Let's
gonna
talk about the
give up
grant down there that y'all just got
$207
for
million
your
pier,
canal.
or for the-
How much money did that save you, that grant, so that you didn't have to pay the full price for dredging?
I understand, Paige. I don't think we're at odds here. What I'm trying to do is spell out what has to transpire if we accept this grant. It puts it-
Chrissy, I wouldn't put it, I don't see why you would ever try to get us another grant. The hours that you put into this to sit here and do this is a slap in her face.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding
We
you.
need to chill out. I'm only asking her to find out when we need to accept it. That's not
Tonight.
unreasonable.
She just said tonight.
She did not. She
Yes,
said,
she
I
did.
will call them and find out. Maybe we'll have a special meeting. That's what she just said when we asked her.
Let's
She will
schedule
call
20
and
more
find
meetings.
out.
Let's just have meetings every day.
Mr. Mayor, can I call the question?
We need a motion.
We don't have a motion.
I move we defer this to a later meeting.
No.
I second.
You don't need to defer anything, you just don't have any action.
Okay. I'll withdraw my motion.
I'm going to make a motion that Christie find out when we need to actually approve this so that we can make an informed decision.
I'll second that.
Would you state that motion again?
I'm making a motion that Christie find out when we need to approve the grant.
And you made the second?
So-
I would need a motion, but you got that, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir.
Discussion?
Yes, yeah, I wanted the discussion. You know, this, again, this is something that, you know, we've been working on this to do another stormwater plan. What's the time and that it's gonna take? Is it gonna take different permits? What is all that gonna incur to get another stormwater plan, Mr. Evans, in your opinion?
Well, I must have misunderstood, because I thought I heard Christie say earlier you couldn't modify the plan. I thought I heard her say that.
Which
No, I didn't say that.
I thought
You
David
can
said we
modify-
could.
You can modify, that was when I lost my helicopter.
I didn't say
I
that.
thought you said that.
No, I said you can
modify the
modify.
stormwater plan. The stormwater plan
the stormwater plan could be implemented in phases. It just has to be done on the final approval. I don't know about the grant. I'm not privy to any of the grant information, but the stormwater plan under normal conditions, you could go out there and put the bathrooms in and put that part of the stormwater system in if it was designed that way, or have it modified to just take the bathrooms. And then if you added impervious area, then you could have that section added. And then if you added a pavilion, you could have that section added. What you have to do is, if the amenities that's on your established stormwater plan are put, as they're put in place, and that portion is capable of being phased, if it was designed that way, you only have to have the stormwater plan complete when all the other portions are complete, because it's predicated on the impervious area as you install it. But most people don't like to mobilize every time they want to put up another doghouse. They want to build them all at one time. So most people, like we were doing as the town, the idea was you have an approved stormwater plan, you have an approved project, you get all the site work done, all the land work done, you get that done and you pay for it, and then you have another contractor who specializes in building the bathrooms come in and build the bathrooms. Infrastructure's in, which is your stormwater, infrastructure, water, all that's in, it's in the site. That typically ends up being cheaper than phasing work. But you can modify the plan. You can do that. Now, whether the grant allows you to do that, I don't know, because I'm not privy to the information of the grant. But there is nothing that says that the bathrooms cannot be installed. Anytime we can get a set of bathrooms that's ADA compliant in this town, we should try it, we should do it, we should make it fast.
Thank you.
That's all I'm gonna say. But you can do this by modifying the permit. Now, you're gonna have to go back to Phil Norris, he'll have to tell you how much that is, or back to your architect who's handling that, and he will be able to tell you what portions of it you would have to install to account for that, or if he can modify it to just accept that. That would be an engineer to anyway, but it can be done.
And that makes sense to me. But I thought in the very beginning, Christie said that we had to do the whole thing because the architect wouldn't allow us to just do part of it.
In accordance with the approved existing today stormwater plan. If
Okay.
you don't modify it, that is true.
Okay, so we can modify the plan to just
Modify
include,
the stormwater.
to just include the bathroom.
I mean,
And bathrooms that include the parking.
Yes, everything associated with that, bathrooms, parking, everything associated with that.
I mean, but my understanding was originally the boat parking was going to be phase one and the bathrooms were going to be phase two, and we're really saying we're flipped, we want to do the bathrooms now, and we haven't decided on the rest of the parcel.
Yes,
Okay.
except that you have to do something with stormwater before you can put a bathroom on that site, because
Correct.
when the festival folks tried to park vehicles on it for a festival one time, everybody was sinking in the sand.
I'll call the question, because there's a motion and second on the floor.
All in favor of the motion, say
Could you
aye.
repeat the motion, please?
You made it. To have her find out.
Yes, have Christie find out when we have to accept the grant. That should be the first step. Okay, he called the question now.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
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 So do we need to make the motion to accept the
Okay.
grant?
Madam Clerk, did you get that?
Yes, sir.
3 noes and 2 yeses. Okay?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept, have the staff finish the paperwork to go ahead and accept the grant.
And pass the associated budget amendment, please.
And the associated.
Does the budget amendment include the stormwater, the 300,000?
No, the discussion on stormwater was strictly as a courtesy to you guys because of the information that we told you we would get back to you yesterday. So you didn't say that you voted on something that you didn't have all the information on.
Okay, I got a motion. I'm looking for a second.
Second.
Now you discuss all you want.
My thought is that we go ahead and get the grant, we go ahead and get this ball rolling, we make the amendments to the orders that we need to, and then instruct the staff to redo a stormwater study. And that's gonna give us some time to get that done. Boom, boom, boom. I mean, it's not gonna take 18 months to do a stormwater study. It shouldn't for that. So let's get on with it. Let's, again, Christie is, you know, you get hit in the face with a baseball enough times, you duck. So, you know, we got a grant, we got them coming, they're looking after us. Let's don't throw this out. So that's it. We can redo it, but we need to get the grant and the stuff moving forward, please.
Any more discussion?
Please.
Anybody want to say anything?
I need to say one other thing. I'm sorry, I know we've talked this to death, but it adds on to what Commissioner Smith was just saying. And if you are, as part of your motion, directing the staff to do additional work for a stormwater plan, then you need to also appropriate funding with that, meaning that you can say, if you want to have us look at the Block Q project funding that's in the budget that's not being used as money for professional services, but we need some direction because we can't have mandates without funding.
Yeah, we should probably bring that back to you as exactly what will be the follow-on requirement that's associated with potential stormwater revisions. We should probably enclave that and bring it back to you, separate and apart from your.
So if you take that out of your motion, that make it cleaner?
Yes.
It was.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought it was.
I'm good with that. Thank you, Christie.
All right, Madam Clerk, would you read the motion back as it now stands?
To get the grant and then hold on, wrong one. That we have staff work to finish, to work to finish, to accept the grant and the associated budget amendment. We have staff do the work to finish the process for the grant. Sorry, my eyes are going crazy.
Everybody understand where we are? You ready for the question? Call, vote. You ready to vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
Thank you all for a hearty discussion.
Thank you, Christie.
Thank you, Kristen.
We're on number 17 now. Mr. McRaney.
Yeah, this amendment will just transfer the unassigned general fund balance that is in excess of 70% to the Beach and Inlet Capital Reserve Fund, and also it includes a transfer to the FEMA fund to finish out that fund for us. And that $198,000, that represents the cost of that $27 million project to the town. So.
That's the interest that interest on the loan that they're not covering, is that what that is?
Yes.
Yeah, because we had the option to either close out the loan for the end of the fiscal year or carry it over to the next year, and it was going to cost significantly more to keep the loan going than to just close it out. So.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the budget amendment.
Second. I think you proved.
Scared me, don't do, people slip up on me like that, then they tell them what happened.
Need a snow shovel or a coat, one of those.
He's got on his coat. Doc's got on her coat.
Well,
I
it's
did bring
official.
one.
It froze over if you need a coat.
I missed a second on that one, I'm sorry, we're very
I'll second it.
Jumping right here on my head. Sorry about that.
You're all good.
So Heather, do I have to say approve ordinance number 2404?
that, or I had that you said approve the budget amendment, so
Okay.
that works
Yeah,
for me
okay.
on that line.
Thanks. We have a second? You seconded it.
I seconded
seconded
it,
it.
yep.
Or he seconded it.
All right. Any more discussion or anything? You want to vote?
Yeah.
All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say no. Unanimous. Thank you, Mr. McRaney. Are we on 18 now?
Yep.
I was wondering.
You thinking about that,
I
baby?
wasn't gonna do
You're
it.
gonna be taking that coat off.
I wasn't gonna do it.
I'm gonna be fighting for it.
Okay, this is just, the town recommends approving the audit contract for Martin Starnes and Associates to audit our accounts for fiscal year ended '24.
This was the item that was deferred from February so that the audit committee could meet and make their recommendation to the board as they are required to do by the town ordinance that established the audit committee. So the committee did meet on February 28th, voted unanimously to recommend approval of the contract. So I move we approve the contract with Martin Stearns and Associates for the town's 23-24 audit.
Second. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Mr. McCraney, I think that concludes your list. Number 19, Mr. Smith and Dr. Dyer, Fish and Pier.
Yeah, so in lieu of, I know we had a public interest meeting, but in lieu of 2 attempts to get bids to rebid the pier for the different construction, I wanted to request that we get the staff to do an RFP to upfit the pier and the pier house or for a private entity. So if you go with the National Park Service, the way that they've been handling some of their properties, they're having a public-private partnership, and it's a basis for the municipalities in an agreement between a private party and a public entity to share the risk and rewards of delivering or enhancing an essential public service. Often this project is one whose economic or feasibility are dependent upon or greatly enhanced through collaboration. So you'd have a public-private partnership. One of the, couple of the examples that we have, one of them, the emergency dredge that we had, I forgot the name of the boat.
Katie.
The Katie May, that is an example of a public-private enterprise. Also, Avalon Pier and Oregon Inlet. Oregon Inlet Fishing Center is owned by the National Park Service. It was started by a group of fishermen so that they'd have a place to park their boats, and that was carried on through different families. And it's just was formed a corporation where they have upkept the marina, and so the National Park Service doesn't have to maintain anything. The new group just signed a 20-year lease. So I would think in this situation that a public and a private partnership, the only thing that we would be responsible for would be the to pay down the debt service on the property itself. There was a lot of interest when the pier land was purchased. Many people approached us about they wanted to go in and put restaurants in, and they wanted to upfit the building. So, you know, the RP would determine if somebody wants to come in, if they could upfit the building, put a new building, repair the pier, but the whole thing would be a public-private partnership. And I think in this case, it wouldn't cost us anything, and that pier would be open. We'd have retail there. We'd still be fulfilling our obligations to the grant and everything like that. So I don't see where it would hurt us to put an RFP out there. And if we did this now, we could have this information, so when the results come back from the public input session, the public would have some more information to see if this is a possibility to have this public-private partnership, then that would help parallel into what we get back from that public peer input session.
Well, again, we asked twice to have the work on the pier rebidded with a different scope of work, and I know now, or I've been made aware now that, you know, the scope of the work would change. Maybe the jetting of the pilings isn't the best practice. So, but it can still be done with a different process that would cost a whole lot less money. Number one, but we never got a chance to rebid that. But this is another opportunity. There are people in our community that have plans. They have the plans already drawn up. Again, there was some questions about Do we, can we have any input into them? Yes. Again, the board can restrict or suggest what businesses would be in there. The length of the lease would be part of their proposal. So again, and at the end of it, Holden Beach owns the building. I mean, it's on Holden Beach property. If they bail out early, which would be absolutely stupid, it's Holden Beach's pier house. So, and Holden Beach's pier. I mean, they just, from what I gather, from what a private entity would want to do, would be to come in and do the work, pay for it all, and just basically lease the property. So, you know, they're gonna have to do the work per whatever engineer says they have to do. It can't be done willy-nilly. The structure itself will have to be approved by Mr. Evans and up to the code, or refurbish the building as per what he says has to be done to it, which I don't think is the best idea. But again, you know, we're talking about a way to get this project moving, and that will end up being no cost to the taxpayers. So it's a win-win situation. Plus, all we're doing at this point is asking for a request for proposals. We're not saying, yes, you know, Joe Blow's going to do it, or yes, we're going to take this idea. But you put it out there because there are people that want the pier. There's organizations that want the pier. There's, you know, there's a possibility that somebody could come and get us out of this. And again, this is not done to confuse anybody or to add any confusion to what's going on. This is real. So all we're asking for is to have the staff, please, and I'm going to make a motion that the staff please put out a request for proposal for a private entity to rebuild or refurbish the pier building up to code per our building inspector, and repair the pier to whatever engineering requirements there needs to be. It's just a request for proposal.
That a motion?
Yes, sir.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Anybody?
Yes, sir. I'm the one who would talk to Rick about the pile jetting. I've been doing a lot of research on how to move the pier forward, believe it or not, contrary to what some people have provided in public comments. So it is not, we'll just change the method or whatever to jetting. I've talked to 3 different engineering firms. We have to drive the piles. If we're going to save money, we're going to have to put equipment on the deck of the pier to do the driving. Now, you guys know what shape that pier is in. There's no way you're going to put a 20 to 40,000 pound truck crane, 1,500 pound pile, and a 2,000 pound pile driver on that without essentially rebuilding it from the pier, from the land, out. You're probably going to have to add additional stringers. You're probably going to have to redo connections on those stringers, and we're still left with some residual design problems in how the horizontal structures are attached to the pile. You may have to crib on top of that pier, reinforce it, or otherwise do some other things to get equipment out on that pier. So it's not necessarily going to be as cheap as we think, okay? So I'm looking into this pier project, and I've had professional experience as a project manager and engineer. This has not been well managed. I think this approach has merit, but this is a ready, shoot, aim at this point. You're asking me to vote for something. I don't even have an idea of what's in the proposal or what we're really asking for. And this is a 5-minute discussion. David and I have had this discussion, but we really need to figure out how to go forward with this pier. And this is, we haven't even defined what we truly want in this pier. And I've said it before, I'd like 1,000-foot pier, good for 30 years. And while it all sounds great that it's all going to be free, in my experience working for the federal government, when I've run a GoCo, government-owned, contractor-operated, doesn't always work out as well as you'd like. So it's going to take time to put together a plan, and I'm working on it, and I've talked to Rick about it, that we can go forward. So this idea is not a bad one, but it's premature. We're just not ready to go flipping an RFP out there. You can't even tell me specifically what you're even asking for. So I think we need to do a little homework. Just for, this isn't a big deal, but you don't even have a paragraph here describing what you want to do, and you're not, if you don't have any supporting information to put something on the agenda, you're supposed to write up a summary. We're just not there yet to do this, so I'm not going to be able to support this.
Why do you need a paragraph to request a proposal?
Actually, I need a lot more than that because I don't know exactly what you're asking for. There's a lot of issues here.
A proposal.
Yeah, but proposal for what, Rick?
For a private
Look, I'm telling you,
Okay.
I've done project work. I think this project has not been well managed from the get-go, and this is another ready, shoot, aim. I'm not going to support it at this point. We need some more meat on these bones before we just start charging forward and asking for proposals. Now, your group that you're promoting, they can submit, excuse me.
What group am I promoting?
Didn't you tell me that Mr. Murdoch and some other folks
No,
are
I did
interested?
not tell you that.
I was not talking to you. I was talking to Rick.
No, sir.
I'll stand corrected, but if there is a group that wants to do that, they are more than, they can certainly submit an unsolicited proposal for us to look at.
What's the difference between,
We shouldn't go out with a proposal unless we're actually.
They can't give us they just can't come in.
Okay, look, you should not go out soliciting from the public for proposals
I did not
or
solicit
votes.
the public for a proposal.
Excuse me, I'm not done yet.
Okay.
It's not appropriate to go out and solicit the public for something that you have no idea if you're actually going to enter into the contract or what it may cost or what your liabilities are. It's just too soon for this. I'm not saying we wouldn't do this eventually, but I'm not supporting it tonight.
Dr. Dyer, you want the floor?
Well, when I did not solicit any. People have mentioned that this was a good partnership. It's been done before at other, and when I asked what we needed to do to proceed, I was told that we needed to request an RFBP. So that's what I was doing. I don't know why I need a paragraph to request an RFP.
They've got to come back to us with the proposal.
You got to know what you're asking for. I'm just.
It's not rocket science to build a cotton picking building, and if it's something engineering stuff to build the pier the way you want it built, that's fine. But it's, again, my gosh, it's not a rocket ship. We're building a building on pilings and then attaching it to a pier and build from the ground level out so that you can put equipment on.
Hey, you know what? I'm just telling you
I don't understand.
Yeah, I know you don't understand, but I'm telling you, for my one vote, based on my experience, now's not the time.
Why?
Yeah, doing rebidding it in twice before wasn't the time either, but I guess we'll wait till.
So what's the time frame left on the part of grant for having recreational activity on it? Is it 2.5 years?
No.
I was asking Christy a question.
So the time frame for development on the site per your part of regulations is 5 years from the time of purchase. I believe we purchased in March of '22 because they gave us retroactivity to approve the grant. But some of the activities that, according to our regional party representative when asked, some of the activities that we have already started on the site do count towards development because we've engaged in page parking on the site. We've started access, which is a component with a walkway on the site. And we have made some improvements to the campground, but those are not finished because we do tend to, or plan to take those from 6 to 4.
And the bathroom that was put on there. Those, we put a bathroom.
That bathroom doesn't count in,
Okay.
yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
May I? Christie, if I understand correctly, what you sent to us in our package said we had to begin the implementing, not be complete. So we have met that requirement because we have started.
Yes.
So this is not some, go ahead.
The only other thing that they have mentioned in the past is don't open it up and then close it. So in other words, don't build so far out and then say, okay, we've decided that we're then going to do this and close it down once you've opened it to the public. They shy and say that's not a good thing.
Right. Okay. So from my perspective, it's going to take time to get a plan together, not forever, and I've been doing some work on it. But this is premature from my perspective. That's all I'm going to say on it.
Christie, can I just clarify? As part of the grant, we are not required to have a pier, is that correct?
Part of the components that you listed in that were listed, not you because you weren't on the board, but the grant application listed as the town was recreational fishing pier, beach access, concessions, which means like hamburger, hot dog style stuff, not a sit-down full restaurant, campgrounds, parking, did I mention access, and just recreational use of the beach. So your pier is part of your components. Those components were listed on the bottom of that document that was sent out to you.
Yep. You can sell the pier.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Well, I've been trying to study this and understand what you're asking. In my opinion, it is very different than the two previous proposals that you put out in the previous months, because those were the town going out requesting services to do work on the pier the town would pay for. This is more like an outsourcing deal where we turn the keys over, we hand everything over to a private party. They pay for it, they pay to develop it, they pay to repair it, they pay ongoing operations and maintenance. It's a full turn over the keys. So I think it is very different. Those kinds of contracts are pretty tricky because you've got to have a win-win situation where you both get something out of it. And just hearing the description, it's like, you know, we're expecting them to pay for everything and we get to keep it and it's our pier. So I do think that there's a lot of details here that really need to be addressed. And I'm intrigued by the opportunity because I think it's a way out for having somebody else pay for it where we don't have to, you know, spend money we don't have to do it. But like Rick, it just seems like there's an awful lot that really needs to get put together to put out an outsourcing RFP, if that's what this is, and a lot of details that need to be, you know, specified so that we know what we're asking for. The other huge thing to me is we had a lot of public input. We really pushed a public input session. We had 120 people come in this room. They gave a lot of good input. They filled out a lot of forms. I really want to wait to hear what they have to say before I set off in a new direction, which this is a new direction for us. And I don't want to head down another path until we've heard from the public and we can assimilate what they said. So I agree, it's intriguing, but I want to hear what the public input was from our session before making any decision.
I would find it hard to believe the public would be against a private entity taking over the entire construction, payment and everything, and all we would be responsible for is paying down the debt service. I still don't understand what it would hurt just to get a proposal.
It's a proposal. Exactly that. It's just a proposal. It can be, you know, retweaked, said, no, this won't work, we got to have this, this, and this, but you got to start somewhere. And right now, we have nothing.
Any more comments? You ready to vote?
Yep.
Of course they
All in favor say aye.
are.
Opposed say no.
No.
3 to 2 did not pass, Madam Clerk. All right. Number 20. Ms. Thomas?
So this is talking about 796 OBW. I put a lot of background in the cover sheet. You can see that the town purchased it for $342. We tried to lease it for below market rate for a while. We've put $52,000 in repairs in it, so it's in good shape right now. We have a loan payment of $68,000, which is the principal interest that continues till 2037, which equates to about an $850,000 loan. So we should sell this property so we can get some taxes on it. We can get out from under a $68,000 a year payment. And so my proposal is to instruct the staff to get bids from local realtors to sell 796 OBW. My motion.
Looking for a second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion, anyone? Yes, sir.
Yeah, we've owned this for 5 years, almost 5 years. I think it was September of 19. We still really haven't figured out what to do with it. We've chased a lot of things. To me, it's kind of been a solution in search of a problem, and we haven't been able to find a problem that it really serves. So it is a residential house. It's in a residential neighborhood. It's built to residential building codes. To turn it into a commercial building is just going to be extremely expensive and complicated, and a whole can of worms associated with that. So I think we've gone down that path. It's also important to note it was purchased by the Water Sewer Fund. It is a water and sewer asset, so if we sell it, that money goes back into the Water Sewer Fund, and we can use that to pay for lift station number 2.
Whoa, 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 whoa. You can't use it. You're going to have to pay back the loan with the money
Well,
that you get from
We
the
will,
proceeds.
we will free up some borrowing capacity then by paying off a loan.
That's right.
To have that money available.
Right.
Or to borrow against. I don't quite understand how we got a loan against, because we paid cash. When did it become encumbered, and how did it become encumbered for so much money?
So the loan's actually a reimbursement loan for that whole project. It's broken down into taxable and non-taxable. And 796 was a portion of the non-taxable part of the loan, but not the entire amount.
So it's collateral for that loan?
No,
It's not?
no. I think the purchase price of 796 was, what was it,
350.
345,
346,
350?
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think we should be held hostage. I think we need to sell it, and we can work out the financial transaction to unencumber it. But the fact that it's got a loan, I mean, I don't want to be handcuffed that we've got to have this thing forever. We're not using it. It's sitting vacant. It's going to fall in disrepair again. It's going to be another resource that we're going to have to start throwing money on. So I think we need to sell it, work out the details of the transaction, and get it off our books, because it's not something that is providing us any value. We'd be better off to have the funds.
Any more discussion?
Yeah, I would like to make a comment to the statement that says that their town has no current plans for its use. That's incorrect. Because the Parks and Recs committee did an extensive plan that was approved with addition of bathrooms and showers on the outside. So to say that there's no plan is incorrect. And I do have copies of the plan if anybody would like it. I just don't think we should rush into selling this until if we're gonna request, an assessment of the ADA compliance in the town. I think that needs to be held on until that is cleared for what our requirements are down there, since they just placed handicap parking. Because the ADA compliant bathrooms down there are certainly gonna be better than putting a porta potty that's not handicapped accessible down there year-round. I think you're gonna have to add more bathrooms, and they're currently not there year-round, so that would have to be done year-round. And I think before we sell it, we do need to take into consideration the bike lanes that are completed. I think it's gonna increase the bike traffic down to that area, and there's no bathroom from the west end to the pier. So if you've got twice as many people using the bike lanes, I think we need to see what it's going to do as far as where people are going to start using the bathroom and where people will start taking showers that are with increased bike traffic down there before we make a decision. I just don't, I'm not saying we don't need to do it, but I don't think we need to rush into it, especially if we're asking for an assessment. I think we should hold on to it until that assessment's done.
I agree. There's gonna have to be some facilities available for ADA. You can't just say, well, after you go past the pier, there's no other place to use the restroom on the island. I mean, we tried to get, tried to work some with sailfish. We tried to work some in other areas, but you know, this was one that we had looked at to facilitate that. And again, it's town property. To sell it, you know, once you sell it, you're not going to be able to buy it back for what you sold it for. So I can't support selling it right now until we get this ADA, island-wide ADA plan put together and find out what we have to have. Because we might end up having to have it. And it might be cheaper to buy it since we've only got $350,000 in it versus buying one that cost $500,000.
Any more comments?
I'd like to add something to the process of, you know, should the board want to go through with selling of the property. The town's authorized to sell property in a few particular ways, and they're outlined in 160. You can do private sale, advertisement for sealed bids, upset bids, and public auction, and then there's one other. I know you specifically mentioned to put it out there for an advertisement for a sealed bid or to contact realtors. I'm not so sure if that particular process is authorized in accordance with the process advertisement for sealed bids. It does say here that, and I'll defer to Sydney on this, but it does say that on the sealed bids piece that you have to follow the same process that you do when the town buys property. And I know that there's some new changes to the law that go to notifying the local government commission, or it's the joint legislative oversight, but there's a notification process involved in there. Should the board want to sell it, I think that maybe you would want to at least consider the options other than the advertisement for sealed bid. When I've seen Brunswick County, Ocean Isle Beach, nearby communities sell property, surplus property, they've actually used an upset bid process, and I'm not that familiar with it, but it seems to me that may be more fruitful for the town than a sealed bid process. That's just my observation there. You don't want to do a public auction on it. That's something, you know, something that you want to do, and it doesn't qualify for private sale because of the particulars. You know, it's public property, and it doesn't meet the thresholds in terms of value. You know, that's my opinion on it, that you may want to consider the upset bid process instead of a sealed bid advertisement through realty companies. That's my contribution there.
And did our motion specify the?
I think she said contact realty companies for to sell it, which tells me that's over there in the.
That's how I sell, but I guess that's not how the town sells.
Well, I mean, towns are only authorized to do what the General Assembly allows them to do.
What method would you recommend, or do you?
So wait, can I just modify it to say instruct staff to sell 796 OBW?
If you do that, I would like to have a work session with Sydney just to make sure that we're going through the right process on it, and make sure that we're doing it right, and to as a byproduct of that skull session, perhaps bring details back to the commissioners on what we deem to be the best path forward to achieve your objective.
So it would
Of
be
selling it.
instruct staff to investigate selling 796 OBW.
Well, I would think that your decision on selling it would be made and that it would track more toward what's the best process to
Yeah.
use. That's what I was
agree.
getting at.
Instruct staff to sell would probably be, and then you do whatever needs to be
And then we
done.
won't-
Sydney, does that sound reasonable to you?
That sounds fair, we can discuss the different processes available. I do agree that upset bidding in this economy, the way things are going, is a good option. Sorry,
Yeah.
Microphone. Could you hear me, or do I need to?
I could hear you,
I
but
don't
had
think that
people in the back
nobody in the
couldn't.
back heard you.
Yes, I will meet with Mr. Hewitt, and we can discuss the different options available. I do agree that upset bidding, or upset bid would be an appropriate mechanism for the sale of this house. And we will just go through all the processes available to us and present to the board with our best options.
Okay, so maybe I'm the only one in the room, but what is the proper wording of your motion? at
I
this time?
think it's instruct staff to sell 796 OBW. Does that sound right, David? And then you guys would do.
With understanding, we're going to bring back the
Yeah, that's
most
fine.
desirable
But
to you.
we would have decided to sell it, and then you'll figure out how.
Okay, and who made the second?
I did, I'm fine with that.
All right. Everybody understand the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
3-2 in favor.
Now, can I follow up with a question
Yes.
on that? Is it the board's understanding that we are to go forth and use our judgment on what the best mechanism is, or bring it back to you for your review, just so you're familiar with it and we have your blessing before we engage on going down a particular path? Or what's your preference? Do you want to delegate it to us, or do you want us to bring that mechanism back to you and then us pursue it?
I think we're dependent on you to come up with the best approach. I mean, so I'd say.
Between you and Sydney.
You and Sydney, if that's the way you agree that the best way to sell it, then go forth.
Okay.
Unless-
You okay?
Okay, just for clarification in the minutes, staff doesn't have to come back. They're moving forward with selling it.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. All right, where are we now, 21?
21, last one, mine, I'll make it quick. We continue to try to improve the audio, video for these meetings so that people that can't be here can participate. We've got new cameras and mics that are better, based on feedback I've heard, are better than what we had before, but there's still room for improvement. So I would like to direct town staff to review and assess what others are doing, come back with recommendations how we can improve the audio, video, transmissions of these meetings. Specifically, what I've heard is when we have presenters that are presenting on the screens, it would be good for the people that are remote to be able to see what's presented on the screen. But that's the only real hard item that came back as a way to improve. And then obviously, we continue to have audio problems. So whatever we can do to make the audio clearer would be very helpful. So the motion is, I don't even know if it's a motion, I'd just like to direct staff to review and assess options for audio, video, and come back with recommendations.
I'll second.
So we've got a motion and a second. All right, any discussion?
By when?
How much time do you think you need? I assume if you want to.
Well, and I'm going to answer this, and I'm really not being facetious. Are y'all sincere about doing a top-notch audio-visual projection? Because what we're doing here, we're just playing tiddlywinks with this kind of stuff. If you want to go with a full, professional broadcast quality that integrates with agendas and saves her soul from having to cobble together what we're working with, we can do that. We've done that before. We know what types of systems are deserving for this community, what will fit. It's just that when we brought it to the board in the past, it wasn't a priority, and it's not cheap. And that type of thing does not only involve IT systems, but it involves manpower to operate and maintain those type of systems. So we can do that, but we're going to need some time to do it.
Well, I mean, I realize this was done before. I think the world changed with the pandemic, and everybody's broadcasting. Rick and I went to Ocean Isle. They had a really nice system, like less than $10,000, I believe.
And it doesn't work.
Well,
I mean, we know that. We've pulsed them. You know, I've had heart-to-heart with the administrator down there, and it causes them more problems than Heather does with our Yahoo and Facebook stuff. So
I guess we're just looking for what are others doing, what works well, and what's the cost.
Okay. And my question is by when? Because, you know, we're right in the middle of the budget. I mean, we got a lot going on. And this, I know this was one of the commissioner's priorities, that to work back into the budget stream. And I thought that was how we would approach it. That would be part of the budget process.
David, you and I have had a discussion about what I'll call that very nice professional system, and it seems to me that that was going to be in the neighborhood of 50 grand a year. Is it possible?
It's not cheap.
Right, I understand that. But then people will be able to see what's going on, presentations. It will help with capturing minutes and official public records, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so me personally, I would like to see that looked at, but we might look at, if that doesn't suit the board, is there like a lesser option? So like, you know, maybe we'll have a low, medium, and the Cadillac, so to speak.
Yeah, and I know, I was just expressing my opinion and frustration over the years at basically trying to meet the community's expectation of champagne, and we're not even getting Miller Lite money to put the to put the product on the table.
I think this is important because I'm constantly quizzed on what's happening with this, and you know, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make him drink, but we got to give him the water, okay? And 70% of our community doesn't live here. And when I've tuned in, when I was not able to be here, I was laying my ear on the laptop to hear, and I think we can do better than that.
I was just expressing.
I understand, and I think we're on the same page. So I understand there's a budget issue. I mean, we're going through the budget cycle. How much time do you think you would need?
Well, to do it right, not only you know, pulsing and telephone calling, but in the past we've gone to the extent of site visits and seeing how it works from the operator standpoint.
Right.
I'm a big operator perspective.
Right.
You know, I mean, you got to have that with anything that you do.
Yeah, we don't need to hire 3 electrical engineers to run this thing. I mean, and then whoever is running it, they have to be able to do it.
But the budget, is that fine, like he's saying, it's part of the budget goals anyway? So
Yeah, I think we want to get it in next year's budget, and, you know, if you can start and report back and see what we find. I assume we don't want to create a committee for this.
No, hell no. Oh, excuse me.
It's just, I think, even just now, you guys are talking about different things. Like, there is the high level, which, I mean, we've got quotes for, I think, like 100,000 in then monthly fees. Or do you want us to just upgrade what we have? And you, like, just a little more direction as to what you're looking for. Like, if we're just looking to do the presentation, somebody would have to actually be filming and switching over to I can't do that and do this. So you're looking at having another person doing it. So I guess it's just what exactly you're expecting,
Well,
what you want from us.
I mean, I agree with David, we're probably in the bottom quartile of the presentation virtual meetings. I don't want to be in the top quartile, but I want to be in the pack. So it's really, and like I said, with the pandemic, I mean, this is so pervasive, it's going on. Just where is everybody else, and what would it take to be in the middle of the pack?
We'll do some research and we'll get something back.
It's not going to be within the next 60 days, though.
That's, I mean,
What?
I think,
I was thinking 6 months,
I mean-
something like that, because we got a lot going
Well,
on.
If
I
you
don't
want
know.
it done right the first time, I mean, it would be better to give us time to get a handle and, like you said, do our site visits and go back and see what other people are doing, but
Because what's going to happen is that we're going to bring something back to you. You're going to start asking specific questions on equipment and how this works and how it runs. And if we haven't had the opportunity to familiarize ourselves with those things, then we're just going to have to get back to you, So,
understood.
We still have a motion on the floor.
Was that a motion? I guess was.
Can you read the motion back, Heather?
It's been so long.
yes. Direct staff to review and assess options for the audio visual and come back with recommendations.
Are you ready to vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. No. 4-1 in favor. Okay. 22, public comments. If you raise your hand and be recognized, come forward, speak in the microphone, give us your name. Yes, sir.
My name is Brent Showalter. I generally live at 911 Ocean Boulevard West here, but mostly I live in Oak Park, Illinois. I came to speak on the issue that Director Evans already spoke on regarding the ordinance for building a walkway to the beach. And I brought a photograph for you to see how that ordinance affects the property. This is a new property that was built a little over a year ago, and the short deck in the center is what the ordinance allows. So when guests rent this house,
Thank you.
they walk through about 225 feet of dune and bramble to get to the beach. Because the section that Director Evans was addressing allows the builder to build just past the first foot of the dune. In this location, there's 3 dunes. So our past renters, as you can see, have worn that path through the dunes and the grasses, even though there's signs everywhere that say $500 fine for walking on the dunes. So that's what is sort of forced to happen. So we have had several contractors come out and give us cost, and we hired a contractor and said, well, we're going to build this new walkway out to the beach, and then it was rejected. And so I'm the problem that he was talking about, coming into his office real hot. That's why I'm coming here to speak about it. What we're looking for is some modification to the language there that allows a sensible resolution. Back where I live is a historic town where Frank Lloyd Wright and Ernest Hemingway lived and worked. We have all kinds of rules, but for something like this, there would be a variance process that allows us to say, what's sensible? The process allows all those decks that you see that are still built there, they should have, if one of those people has a bad old deck and they want to replace it, they should come in and put a permit application to replace my walkway. But they don't do that. They take the Ship of Theseus approach. Build the little section, when another section's messed up, build that section, and eventually they have a new deck. But they're never going to tear theirs down because they'd be in the same situation that I am. So I'm just really coming as more like the comic relief of what he's already requested to allow that section of the ordinance to be reviewed and modified in a sensible way that allows this this to be built the way that it should, which is the walkway should be able to go out to the dune, past the dune, and then when you set your foot, you're setting on sand. Right now, senior citizens cannot rent this house. My 84-year-old mother-in-law cannot stay here because she likes to walk on the beach, but she can't get there. And even though our rental company has said to the renters, don't walk on the walkway which is right next to us, which is owned by the people in the, I think it's by the sea, homes behind us, they still do it because nobody wants to walk through there and get cactus in your feet. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the visual.
Anyone else want to speak about any subject?
Tonight, my son is celebrating his 15th birthday without me. I'm Lisa Ragland again, 115 Salisbury Street. I stayed here the whole meeting so I could come up here at the end. The conflict check that was presented earlier, I actually am a little bit behind that because the Freedom of Information Act emails were sent to me, and there are a number of emails between Holden Beach Property Owner Association members, Board of Director members, and a man by the name Tim Thronson. Those emails you could request from the town just like the person that requested them and shared them with me. But the biggest challenge in this is that there is an obvious, clear, and convincing fact that that two commissioners that are on this board are trying to turn the town a little bit upside down in regards to a state auditor review over the pier purchase. So because there are some actions that are being taken that are against town officials in regards to the pier project, the two commissioners that voted tonight on that agenda item should have recused themselves. So that's all I have to say about that.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. Keith Smith, 105 Durham. I'm extremely close to the mic because the first half of the meeting I was driving back. I had to work out of town today. So the OWL system, I will say, is an improvement. I don't think it's anywhere close to the caliber of what Holden Beach provides to a family. So I think that whatever we provide in an audio sense, I think we should match that caliber. I mean, I think we have one of the finest communities along the coast. And I think that you are in budget season. I think you go ahead and bite the bullet and add the money to it. I mean, if you're wanting a top-notch system, don't put it off 3 or 4 years. Just go ahead and bite the bullet. And like I said, Heather can't do it. I mean, is it an improvement from having a phone sitting over there and just watching halfway across? Absolutely, positively. But the sound still has not caught up with it. Matter of fact, tonight earlier, if you're not speaking right into these microphones, you can't hear without putting your ear up next to the speaker, which when I was driving down the road, that wasn't a good idea. First thing I would just ask you is, I know you guys talked about parking regulations and increasing it to year-round. Nowhere in that conversation did I hear any monetary reason to do it other than they come all year round, so let's just increase the cost. Someone to collect trash, and this is the expense of that, and so this is where we're falling short, which I think you did address some on the pier as far as the expenses that go with that. But I don't know if we went far enough because from just my perspective, I tried to listen like as an outsider, and it kind of sounded like a money grab. I would like to talk, I'm not saying it is, I'm just saying it kind of sounded that way. I do want to talk about grants for just a second. I don't know that since I've been here, and it could have predated me, but I don't think since I've been in here, the town has done anything significant without grant money. I think that's a testament to the person that writes the grants. And I'm not all praise Christie, but she does deserve that. But what I have noticed, every time the town goes to do something, a board approves something, usually there's a grant that falls right down behind there. And there's a reason for that. She's not asking for something that's not due in the sense of this. Everybody in the eastern half of the United States, let's just put it there, we've got people visit from Canada, Hawaii, Colorado, Texas, Kentucky, Indiana. All of these people pay taxes and they come to this beach. And so we have those are people that just respond and say, yes, we're from this area. And so we know that. So they pay their taxes to the federal government. That money goes to Washington DC and circulates through that building, and they take their portion out. Then when Christie makes an access or a request for that money, then that money comes back to Holden Beach to provide services, not only just for us in the town, but also for the beach, that is the person in Kentucky, Indiana, Georgia, Florida, Hawaii, and yes, even Canada, but they don't help pay for it, but either way. So the grants are not free money. The grants are the people's money just coming back to where they spend their time. That's it.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else want to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Marty Airwood, 114 Shrimp Street. I also want to pigtail on what Ms. Ragland said. The FOIA request that was made and the information that the gentleman has put on social media is very, very offending. For you to, in conversations, say you don't trust the staff. For you in conversations to discuss sending Mayor Holden to Raleigh on some lame pursuit so that he gets embarrassed is not professional. But for me personally, I've lived here for 35 years. That is more time than I have spent in any other place in my life. So I consider myself a local. And to be called a Babette, and my husband to be called a Bubba, you know what? Y'all might have meant to be insulting to the locals, but I love my community, and I'm going to wear that with a sense of pride.
Anyone else wish to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Regina Gobble Martin, 1032 Ocean Boulevard West. I thought long and hard about whether I was going to stand up here and talk, but I'm going to tell you I made my decision. I have never been any more embarrassed by a group of people than I have been tonight. I have seen you mumble and bumble and destroy things that people in this community have wanted, and you guys just figure out a way not to do what you need to do. We paid $350,000-ish for that house down there. You complained about building a bathroom that was going to cost $440,000, and we can put one underneath that house down there. Ask me, where's the logic? Where's the sense? Why not go out and get an RFP for finding out how many? I can tell you at least 4 different people that I know that would bring a proposal to you that you could reject if you wanted to. But that would bring a proposal that would in some way fix that fishing pier and basically cost the town no money. But you all don't want to fix the fishing pier. What you really want to do is tear the damn thing down.
Anyone else want to speak? All righty. Mr. Hewitt.
I'll try to be brief. Along the lines of personnel, we're still recruiting to fill 1 police officer vacancy. Officer Justin Hewitt has just started back with the police department. Officer Hewitt is no kin to me. In admin, we've filled the vacancy at the front desk. Penny King will be starting the beginning of April. On our coastal storm risk management study, the Corps is not going to have to go down, pencils down in April now that the most recent budget impasse has been resolved. We believe that all matching funds for the study are in place, but we'll still have to work with our congressional delegation to ensure the federal in-game appropriations are made. On our stormwater project partnership agreement with the Corps, we're awaiting the draft project agreement in order to scope 5 or 6 stormwater projects. Have not received that from them. As a reminder, that's approximately $2 million worth of programs with a 75% funding rate from the Corps. Beach Strand, the Lockwood Folly Inlet Maintenance Project is wrapping up, has wrapped up. They're demobbing currently. Used the least cost method of placement that occurred on the east end. We do not have the yardage quantified yet, but it's above 100,000 cubic yards on the east end down there. Our rock raking documentation has been provided to the Division of Coastal Management. To wit, we believe that we're going to be given some relief from the non-compatible material placement on the beach notice of violation that we received at the end of the project. Our sand fence repairs are underway. That should be wrapping up by the end of the week with vegetation planting to follow as the weather warms up a bit. I believe we're going to have a cold front come through over the next week, but the idea is to make sure that that's finished before the end of the fiscal year. Our federal funding priorities, we're wrapping up the preparation for the congressionally directed spending projects that are due by the end of the week. Those 3 elements, as reminded to the board, are the Coastal Storm Damage Reduction Project, the Stormwater Project, and also Lockwood Folly Dredging. If there's any deviation from that, I need to have it before we leave tonight. The Lift Station 2 Greensboro Street upfit, we've submitted our paperwork, or our preliminary paperwork, to the Division of Environmental Quality to receive the state appropriation of $2 million. We will be receiving an offer to fund as soon as the division's backlog clears. And once we get that offer, that's going to require formal board action to accept. So just as an anticipatory notification, that should be coming soon. Canal dredging, the TDU is on site at Harbor Acres and has been dredging in the entrance canals, and we've not been notified of any. We haven't been notified of any issues to date. Paid parking, that starts April. So if you hadn't got your parking pass yet, you should. Hurricane decals, be on the lookout for them in your April water bill. They're here, and we're getting ready to send those out. The 441 Ocean Boulevard walkway at the pier and emergency ramp, the carpentering has been completed, but we've got to get Public Works to assist with the configuration and placement of the blue mats now that the Public Works bike lane babysitting duties are over with. It seemed like they were running up and down the road trying to repair leaks, so they couldn't help us out with the blue mat placement. The Quinton Street access, we're working on plans and specs to get the bid solicitation out for the bathrooms there. Ocean Boulevard resurfacing and the bike lanes are still on schedule to be finished by Memorial Day. And hopefully they'll finish way before that so they can knock out High Point Street paving too. And lastly, but not least, the Easter egg hunt on the 5th of April. That's a high demand event, and you will need to be pre-registered for that event, and you have to be pre-registered by the end of this week. So that's all I have.
So David, can I ask you a question about 441? I see you talking about the blue matting, but what's your outlook for putting in our emergency vehicle access?
That's what we're working on too. We've got to put some more coquina up there too, so we're going to knock them all out.
Okay.
The idea is to finalize the configuration.
Okay, thank you.
The Holden Beach Chapel will be sponsoring the sunrise service at the Holden Beach Pier Easter Sunday, and also have an 8 o'clock service, a 9:30 service, and 11:30 service at the chapel. And I'm gonna go home and eat breakfast. I'm gonna cut mine short, so.
I'll do the same. It was quite an agenda. I hope I made my position clear. You may not agree, but hopefully you understand it. And nothing more to add to that.
Rick?
Well, the first thing I will say is how sad I am for the loss of the people at the Holden Beach trolley stop. I know that's devastating anytime a fire takes away your livelihood as well as your home. My thoughts and prayers go out to those folks. I hope they can make amends and get back up and going soon. Again, I'm terribly disappointed in the increase in the paid parking without anything to show on the other end. We're asking people to come, pay more, and we don't have any amenities. I mean, it's again, just like this 796, it's good. You know, we're gonna have to have the ADA requirements. We're gonna have to have things that are in place, and we can't wait around forever. It's gonna have to happen soon, or we'll be forced for it to happen soon. Again, we've tried. This board has tried a couple of times to come together on the pier project. You know, going out for new bids for the actual work to be done, and then we have the opportunity where we've been approached by different entities that want to spend a lot of money here at Holden Beach and really take the burden off the taxpayers because they believe so much in Holden Beach. You know, again, a proposal is nothing but this is what we would like to do, and then it can be worked on from that. So, again, here we are. We don't have any boat parking. We don't have any movement forward on the pier. So we're right back to where we were just about when I started.
Ms. Thomas?
I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Appreciate it, and appreciate your input. Have a good night.
Doctor?
I too want to extend my condolences to the family of the trolley stop, the family-owned business. As a small business owner, I know what it takes to do a lot of work. They provided the family their employees. A family-owned business is usually a family environment, so those employees now are unemployed. I think they provided a great service to that area. It was a place for people to visit, to congregate. They did some fundraisers for people that needed medical expenses. They provided a great service to the community, and I'm just very sorry of their loss. I hope they can get that going again. I also want to thank the first responders. I think we had 5 or 6 fire departments respond to that fire from Ocean Isle to, is it Oyster Harbor that's in Fulton? Oyster Harbor Fire Station. As we know, any fire that happens on the island, depending on where the wind goes, it can be one fire to 4 or 5 structures. And even though we lost that building, thankfully no human life was lost. None of the first responders that I know of were injured, and the businesses surrounding it were saved. So I think that was a great win, even though it was a loss. The first responders did their job and did it well. And everybody have a safe Easter holiday.
Mr. Parkins?
I want to thank everybody for putting in the seat time tonight. It's been pretty long. I want to thank town staff for all the hard work and for all those folks that are normally or not here. The staff that does all that hard work. Please extend my appreciation to them. Again, thanks everybody for coming out and speaking up, and I hope everybody has a good evening.
Is there a motion we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor say, say aye.
Aye.